Yes, we are live, August 14th, 2024. This is the IPS Evening DEPROGRAM. And this is a punk remix of COVID Cooties by Symbia, released by Flint Woodskin. And I put a link on the minds.com account and below. And I checked to see, actually, I messaged Symbia, and she had actually responded to it 4 years ago when this was released. COVID Cooties, one of the best things to come out of 2020. And we are live. The title tonight is "The Simulation is Not the Territory." And this is a very important point to make here because there's this default position that the news is fake, therefore reality is fake. Or the news is strangely prophetic at times, mirroring real life or mirroring entertainment, predictive programming. All these things that make media questionable cause people to question reality itself. And that's a problem. Not only is it a problem, but it's by design. So what I'm suggesting here is that we have the model of the world and the real thing, and they have it conflated in people's minds. And if they perceive that the model is fake, it will lead them to this area of this must be a simulation, which is nothing you can prove anyway. It's sort of a dead end for any kind of inquiry. Instead of suggesting that maybe the media is rigged and our worldview is false and the model's false, they say reality is false. So here's a perfect example. This is a excerpt from Joe Rogan, who says Elon is convinced we're living in a simulation. He believes wholeheartedly that we're in a simulation. There's another interview where he was being questioned, and he's like, what are the odds? Now, before I read the entire quote, I just want to run this question by you because they're arriving at this not by their real experiences. Nobody's experiencing this as a simulation. It's only what they see on the screen that gives them any kind of discrepancy. And what I'm looking at here is it seems to me that they're not applying Occam's razor. Like, what is more likely? That the news is rigged or that reality is fake? And that's kind of where I think they have deliberately inserted what I would call a guardrail. So anyone who notices how fake everything seems to be, instead of concluding that the news is lying about the worldview, they are instead suggesting everything is fake and you're seeing through it and the news media is just faithfully reporting what's there. So let me go ahead and play this short clip. This is Joe Rogan quoting Pope Elon. By the way, Rogan's a full-blown Harris supporter based on what he said recently. Something he and I have in common. Well, I'm not actually a Harris supporter. I'm voting for Harris as a protest vote against the knee-jerk, compulsive, lemming-like behavior in Trutherville. And if any of them get mad at me for voting for Harris, I'm going to say, well, are you suggesting that votes matter and the system isn't rigged? Why would you vote for somebody who thinks moon landings are real? Anyway, let me play this clip. This is Joe Rogan referencing Elon and this simulation theory.
Elon Musk said that the odds of us not being in the simulation are in the billions. He believes wholeheartedly that we're in a simulation. Here it is.
This could be some simulation.
It could. Do you entertain that?
Well, the argument for the simulation, I think, is quite strong.
So this is on my podcast, he said that, but then...
So it's true. We do live in a simulation, but we also live in the real world. The simulation is our mental concept, and we have a shared consensus, quote, globally, which is new, where we're all on the same page. You know, our calendars align, our media consumption is synchronized, our minds are entrained to the government propaganda mill. And this isn't just the news media, it's all of it. It's the entertainment. In fact, this morning I talked about the acronym that I use that you can find in Secret Religion of the Elite, where I started talking about the game programmers. GAME being an acronym for government, academia, media, entertainment. And it's not a new thing here, you know, for us, but for anybody who's looking at discrepancies in the news, they arrive at the conclusion that reality must be fake because they are compartmentalized. They think the news media is people with cameras and microphones and notepads just gathering facts and reporting on stuff. So they use the screen as a sensory apparatus. Like, this is how I see long distance and know what's happening around the world. And they don't recognize that it is in fact a wool. It's a wool sack pulled over your eyes. It's a hoodwink, the digital veil. It's a filter, not a window. And everyone gets that wrong by design. And obviously the reason why is because it's so immersive. from the moment that you're able to sit up straight, you have your nose pressed up against the screen, and for most people, that's where they stay their entire lives. The people who think too deeply go inside the thing. They put their head through the screen. They look inside deeper and they find all these rabbit trails and conspiracy theories in order to explain away what doesn't make sense on the face of it. When extraordinary claims don't make sense as they're presented, you're not supposed to just look for additional evidence to bolster their claim. You're supposed to reject their claim until they provide substantial, substantive evidence to support what they're saying. That's why I take what we call the negative route, the subtractive, MSM minus, skepticism, suspension of judgment. Otherwise, you end up like these people who are confused. I'm not confused. The news media hasn't got me to the point where I'm like, reality's fake, nothing's real. Solipsism makes sense. Nope, not at all. I maintain that auto-hoaxers, media skeptics are the only true objectivists, and that objectivism started off on the right track, but it assumed wrongly that media was in fact just a substitute for your own senses. That you could use what they're presenting to you on the screen as evidence. And this is the crux of the whole issue here. Let me go and play the rest of this clip.
On my podcast, he said that, but then there was another interview where he was being questioned, like, what are the odds? And he said the odds of us not being in a simulation are in the billions.
The odds of us not being in a simulation are in the billions. Now, keep in mind, too, that Musk saying this is not just some regular person or someone with any kind of real depth in philosophy or anything like that, mysticism. Like when he says simulation, you're meant to take it like this is a credible source in the matter. But no, this is one of the premier fakers. Like him or not, be entertained by him or not, he is part of the space program. He's a government contractor. And what does the space program ultimately do? Well, it's all about maintaining your inner space, controlling your inner space. Your inner space, the space between your ears. It's not about going out there to some distant paradise on some exoplanet. Those are lies. That's utopianism. They're selling you on a false vision. What they're really doing is they're getting you to believe that this ideal is how we should live. So let's live on Earth as we would on Mars. And that's part of Musk's purpose here. World view control. That this is the superior way to live. And Musk, of course, has a lot of credibility as some kind of proponent of free speech, a free speech absolutist, but you can't really separate his functions. Mind control. That's why he has Twitter. That's why he bought social media, because it's about cyberspace. Cyberspace, outer space, these are basic the commons, and they want to get us all on the same sheet. So that's why cyberspace is so important. The internet has to be regulated because in many ways, media is the world state religion, and the censored version, you could look at it as your Bible. Your little black monolith in your hand is the Bible for the NWO. But it's not quite complete. They have to get rid of the heretics, the conspiracy theorists, the non-canonical texts. So we're still at the purification phase. And that's where Musk comes in. And this is a big part of what we're talking about today, because Disease X, that's what Musk is bringing, Disease X, which is this placeholder concept for the big one that's going to take us all out. And my contention is that Disease X is the mind virus, the rage virus that stems from X, the internet. Look, the free flow of ideas and mind junk has created this perilous situation for the commons where we're all affected by it, and this is causing random people to pop off. And they have many examples they can point to. Internet radicalized mentally ill people who pick up guns and shoot stuff. Well, they use this because they're making the point that even though you and I are sane, and we can discuss these things without falling into these extremist traps and taking action, there are a lot of people who can't. Therefore, we must censor the internet for them. Since we're mentally healthy or critically thinking, we are like mind virus super spreaders, because we're not destroyed by them, but we can spread them. And we do. I mean, I'm one of the main traffickers of mind viruses, at least in this arena. I mean, the whole idea here of auto-hoaxology is inoculating us against mind viruses, meaning that you can confront ideas without automatically believing them or running from them. And that's where the media has conditioned people to go in the opposite direction, to make them like infophobic. Run from the dangerous misinformation before it infects you, because you have no immune system. Again, MAIDS. Most of you here know what MAIDS is. So there again, my main point here with this Joe Rogan Musk thing is that simulation theory is a guardrail so that when you start recognizing the discrepancy between the worldview as commonly experienced through media and the real thing, you run for the explanation that nothing is real, everything is subjective and fake. And that's a trap. The truth of it is the worldview is subjective, malleable, and fake. And that's their main secret. Yesterday I was, more than once, I think, I quoted Frank Herbert, who wrote Dune, regarding knowledge and belief. And this is a very key distinction here. He said, and this is regarding, just think about the normies, the blue pillars, the people in the box. Frank Herbert said, quote, and he's talking, this is not related to what we're talking about, but it's a perfectly appropriate quote here, because he says, they're not mad, they're trained to believe, not to know. They're trained to believe. That's the key point here. They're trained to trust the screen, to accept the implicit argument from authority that it claims. So again, they're not mad, they're trained to believe, not to know. Belief can be manipulated. Only knowledge is dangerous. And when I say we take the negative route, the subtractive, what it means here is that we are rejecting belief, not accompanied by facts, which would make it more something we know, which leaves us in the place of being agnostic about that which they don't give us enough information for, or openly informed about why we don't believe in it. So we're not low information. Most news consumers are low info believers. Ask them for details about anything. You won't get anything. It's just the storylines, the narratives, the themes they pick up in broad strokes. But we're the ones going into the weeds here. We're the ones who know more about what they believe. And what we know leads us to conclude that these things are unbelievable. So again, knowledge, dangerous, belief, manipulated. That is the MO of the power elite. This is the very basis for their power. It's this knowledge discrepancy. A world of ignorant, hoodwinked sheeple in various subjective belief systems, which should be contradictory. They should not all exist in the same place at the same time, but they do. But it doesn't matter, because again, it's all within a closed system of subjectivity. Global Asylum. All right, we are joined by Shannon Jones, P. Trippa, Diana South, Green Smoke. Says, is this live? It's either live or this is a remarkable coincidence. 3 up, 3 down, Ted Striker 2112, Josh Lebsock, GCF. He said, I see my Wally George post from Twitter. Yes, wherever you're posting from, I will always drop it into Minds, so we have receipts, and I always give credit to whoever provided whatever puzzle piece to this multi-million piece puzzle. And the reason for giving credit is because we're building a network. And if someone wants to trace your claims, you want them to go to the source. We're not trying to monopolize or consolidate other people's findings and leave them out of it. We're actively growing a network here. Lord Laney says, Viva la auto hoaxers. Yep. March of the Penguinati. RJ Shine says, you going ball earth with Jaron? I can prove we live in a virtual reality. Jaron works for NASA. He's controlled opposition. And until he explains his ISS solar and lunar transits, I don't know how much he got paid, but somebody handed him probably an envelope full of cash and a little junk drive with a PNG of the ISS and just said, yeah, just go out there, record the moon, and drag this across it in your video editing, little video compositing animation. Because, that alone, there's no other explanation. It's standard. All the people who are on the inside use the same graphics for faking transits. Joined by David Hazel. RJ Shine says Rogan and Musk are gatekeepers. Yeah, absolutely. See, what they're doing is they're consolidating all of the free thinkers who broke free of the mainstream, and then they're leading them into these predictable routes, these predictable conclusions. And it's a huge setup. No one is given, I guess, the court of public opinion more reason to agree with censoring podcasts than Joe Rogan. And over what? Horse paste? Virtual Reality Witness says, Tim must believe we live in a physical world made of atoms. No, I think it's made of little cubes, like Minecraft. Didn't Plato say that? Didn't Plato say we live in a world of cubes? Speaking of cubes, I found a Rubik's Cube in the gym parking lot, and I've been working on it. And I'm wondering, maybe someone just got frustrated with it and threw it out their window. Plato envisioned Earth's building blocks as cubes, a shape rarely found in nature. So yes, Plato's cube in the natural geometry of fragmentation. Plato was right. This is from Penn Today. Plato was right. Earth is made of, on average, cubes. The ancient philosopher Plato conjectured that the universe was composed of particular geometric shapes, the Earth of cubes. Yeah, so there you go. I guess I'm a cube earther. Is there a name for this? I'm not even an earther, so you can't even call me a ball earther. I'm not even an earther, which is worse than flat earth. You think flat earth is bad. Wait until you have these total shape agnostics who are like, I'm not even an earther. I don't even know. I'm totally agnostic. And if you don't like it, well, deal with it. Get me some facts. Because if you subtract the assumption of a curve, you have to rule out outer space as described, which means you cannot make the claim that the Earth is a discrete object floating somewhere. So my best guess is perhaps we're on the bottom of the universe, and it might be flat and infinite. Joined by Bayonet, Dinah South, Allegory, Esteban, Brandog17 says, need to get Jason Brashears from Archaics on here to talk about simulation theory. Sure. Here's the thing. I want to make clear that, in my opinion, simulation theory is a new iteration of older concepts, mystic concepts, but that it is specifically being introduced to truthers so they don't know the news is fake, that the news is a simulation. Like, you can just replace the word psyop with simulation. So like Crocus, the Russian opera house where 133 people were shot. Well, you could say 133 people were shot in a mass casualty simulation. And now that simulation was dumped through these various channels directly into people's minds because they don't critically think and they accept it as real because it was presented from the news media as such. So now they live in a augmented reality. In their reality, this simulated event is real. And if you stack up all the simulated events that frame your world, you live in a simulation in that sense. You could make the argument that people who are heavily indoctrinated into religious cults live within a simulation, an augmented reality. But I say augmented reality because the reality itself is there. It's just covered up with a bunch of BS. And that's what the MSM does. And so when you start rejecting the mainstream or recognizing how hoaxy it is, they're ready to lead you to the conclusion that nothing's real, you've seen through the matrix, and now just pay attention to your own life. They're trying to distract you so you don't figure out the meta script, the news benders. And that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in facts. I'm not interested in speculation that leads to our minds are incapable of grasping what this is. It's the demiurge. It's a supercomputer. It's higher than man. It's all a distraction. Don't give it your attention. I'm like, no. In my view, we don't ignore it and say, oh, it's fake. Let's not pay attention. No, it's like, let's pay way more attention. Like, I'm the informed non-believer. I mean, there are people who are low info disbelief, and they're like, oh, I don't believe in duck-billed platypuses because they seem fake. That's low info disbelief, and it's just as bad as low info belief. I need to know why I think something's fake, or why I choose to remain agnostic about something. Clockwork 113 says, howdy. Bach Precision says, Joe Rogan types are adopted from orphanages, easy to groom from early on. Yeah, I could see that. I think that these are, influencers who are definitely part of the programming class, but how far up are they? I don't know. Do you remember when Rogan said that he would sacrifice his mother to know the truth about aliens or something? I mean, he's expressed an interest in knowing what's really going on, and if he's a gatekeeper, he must know there's a reason why he's preventing people from going this far. So what is he told? Like, maybe the astronauts don't know we've been given a false cosmology. Perhaps they're just told, yeah, we have to fake it to trick the Russians. That's another guardrail, and the public was just exposed to it through Fly Me to the Moon. We had to fake the moon landing to trick the Russians. That's a guardrail. The truth of it is, jump the guardrail, we had to fake the moon landing because space travel's fake, and all of the countries are in on it. Slick Rick 333 has joined. Says, are Freemasons allowed in the chat? Yes, but if you want to get to the members section, you do have to pay your dues. It's $1 a month, and I've been uploading. I will be uploading videos daily. I have a new routine. So, like I said, I've been working. It's been really difficult to get this routine to work out perfectly, but now it works. So essentially, what I'm doing is mornings I will be reviewing comments from the day before, setting the stage for what we're going to talk about in the evening. Donna South says, I love the game programmer's writing you emailed. Thank you. That was from Secret Religion of the Elite. And I'm going to return to that. In fact, I have a number of manuscripts here that I think I need to consolidate into just one book. I'll run it all through the editor. I'll put it into sections, but I think I could put it all into one book. Isabel Ann says, Demetria 101, great call last night, mind blown, so fascinating. Isabel Ann was in the chat talking about the position of the eye in the sky, the star Algol, the 3-star system, and suggested that it was an opportune time for Trump to get his head wound. 30 seconds later, Trump was shot. Like, she literally said it at 6:11 and 3 seconds. And then at 6:11 and 33 seconds, he was fake shot. But I sent out a chapter from Secret Religion of the Elite. And so as I start consolidating these books into one, I'll send out chapters. So if you're subscribed to the newsletter, you can look forward to that. Mizelle says, Mizelle has joined us. Thank you for joining. We've got Busy56 says, just watched Thelma and Louise. Their motel room is room 133. Yeah, there was a lot of interesting stuff with 133. We were talking about this during the Crocus hoax, which was predicted by Tennant and a few others. In fact, one of the things about the Crocus Opera Theater, someone had gone through and checked the Yelp reviews and Google Maps and satellite imagery, and the parking lot was empty, and there were no reviews for a couple of years. Like, it was totally not in use. Typical. Joined by Observing Reality says, I tried horse paste, it was apple flavor, and I only did it once. The next time I said nay. King Ravana says, reverse Jenga Shashibo cube. Oh, yeah, that's the composition of the universe, yep. Not Shock says, Plato's cave was cube-shaped. Now, have you all seen the movie Room? I think this movie is profound. It's hard to watch. I mean, it's kind of tragic, and it's got a lot of creepy stuff in it. But the long and short of it is a woman is kidnapped and locked in a shed. And the psychopath keeps her in there for years, and her child is born in this small enclosed space, which they call room. And it's when he turns 5 years old, she tells him that she's going to have to break him out. And he doesn't believe there's anything outside. And he starts screaming that she's lying. And he says, you know, you're lying, there's nothing outside of room. And she says, no, I lied to you for the first 5 years of your life to protect you. But now I am unlying. So unlying is interesting because that word doesn't really exist. I think I hadn't heard it until this movie. And it kind of stuck with me because it's a pretty good description of what she had to do. She had to reverse all the programming to undo the false worldview so he would even be willing to leave. But it has a number of concepts that I find interesting as well. Like when she helps him escape, she has to overcome their captor, whose name is, they call him Old Nick. And he's this devil, kind of demiurge-like character in this context. And in order for him to escape, he has to play dead. So you have this death and rebirth theme where she rolls him up in a rug. So it's like a coffin or a cocoon, and gives him instructions on when to escape as the guy's trying to dump his body, thinking he's dead. So it's about his rebirth into this new world after going into this cocoon thing after being briefed on what was on the outside. Anyway, I think this movie is intriguing. It's not just about a kidnapped child, but I think it's also about world view and how it's constrained, because his entire concept of the world was fed to him through the mother and through the TV that he had in the room. Tim Osman says, fence-sitting earther, not new. What happened to flat earther who spends years believing in flat earth and has nothing to show for himself? From the very beginning, I've said that believers are in the wrong, that anybody presuming a model is making a mistake. I would say your ball earth, your CGI ball, is just as bad as the flat earth and dome. Both of you are taking a leap of faith. You're trusting a certain authority, whether it's science or the Bible. And when I say science, I don't mean literal science. I mean scientism. I mean politically motivated government mind control and their worldview, their model, versus a archaic model. And I'm saying both models are wrong. Both models require more information, and neither side is providing it. One side is fabricating, and the other side is busy organizing conferences and running in circles. But no, I am the one person who said from the beginning, the only defensible position is shape agnosticism. So I'm not fence sitting, but you are a believer. And I would say that the ball earth believer is just as bad as Mark Sargent believing in the dome. It's like if I believed there was a dome, like I was convinced of it, I would go deep south. I would take a chunk of it and bring it back. Isabel Ann says, who declares Mpox a global health emergency today? Yeah, I saw that. In fact, that made me think of the movie. Let me see if I can pull this up. Oh yes, I have a link to it. The director of Civil War also released a movie called 28 Days Later, and that was the one about a rage virus. Chimpanzees are the catalyst for the events in the horror film 28 Days Later. There are chimpanzees who are used as hosts for a rage virus. So earlier when I was talking about disease X being the problem, that violent, radicalized domestic terrorists who go on X and go out on shooting sprees, they have a mind virus, but it's a rage virus. They're mad at the Democrats or the deep state. But it's not a coincidence that the same guy directed Civil War, which has predictive programming where they make a black woman shoot the Trump guy. Obvious what that means. But Michael in Truth posted this today. He said, there's a lot of predictive programming for monkey virus. Boris Johnson's dad, Stanley Johnson, and think about it, Boris Johnson, Bojo. Boris Johnson's dad, Stanley Johnson, wrote the Marburg virus with a monkey on the cover. The Marburg virus. So what are the odds? And just to be so close to Bojo, Boris Johnson. Look at that. The Marburg virus. But yes, they declared it a thing today. So I'm looking forward to that. I was hoping, I've been saying, I hope they just drop all the rest, the remaining unplayed Illuminati cards before the election. Harmon Walker has arrived with a basket full of blue wrenches. Clump has received a membership gift. Blue Ranch Lodge, Elephant Tusks, Tony Driscoll, Portal Complex, Nick Fingar, They Lie We See. And thank you for ordering the book, Auto Hoaxology 101, Nick Fingar. You'll be getting a tracking number. Austin 108 and RJ are the latest Blue Wrench Lodge members. Okay, continuing. Yeah, I'll open up phones here in just a moment. John Cordone says, I was born on Friday, October the 13th, 1978. Very significant day to the Demolay, the Youth Masons. Diana South says, I actually saw a room. Yeah, I see room as an analogy. It's an allegory, rather. Like Allegory the Cave. And that's why I thought about it. Somebody had suggested Plato's cave was a cube. Which it is. I would say it's a cube. Like a black cube, like a TV. Like a monolith. It's more cubic, though. And within the cube, there's two more cubes. One of them is on the left, one's on the right, depending on which way you lean politically. And if you lean left, you're going to go into the box within the mainstream box, the box that we refer to here as Woketown. If you lean right, you're going to go into Trutherville. I reject all of these boxes. John Cordone says the world is a cage. Yeah, I somewhat agree with that. I mean, I think when we get into the symbolism, the black cube, Saturn, and all this stuff, it all boils down to time and space constraints. You're in the end times, in this finite realm. Ryler05 says it'll be hard to fake monkeypox, so it's probably a little filler to keep attention in viruses. Well, anything they can fake in the movies, they can fake. in real life, and the audiences aren't that discriminating. I mean, do you remember the Kung Flu? How people in Wuhan were like just dropping on the ground like some invisible Bruce Lee had kicked them on the back of the heads. Like that didn't last very long, and we laughed at it because it was so phony. But that's all it took to convince the world, and we never saw that again. Seba says maybe this is a puzzle and you need to escape. The cube, hollow, flat, spheroid, diamond, Earth. You suspect they patrol the entire Antarctica line? No, I think that's a ridiculous notion that that there's some kind of like a perimeter guard around this entire thing. We're talking. Um, you wouldn't be able to maintain such a force. No, it's insane to think so. I'm very intrigued by various concepts. The idea of the Earth being a plane with more land, somehow being projected onto what we call the moon. Very interesting concept. But again, I don't have enough information because I don't trust the liars. And none of them are trustworthy. And I'm not just talking about because they'll say, oh, well, if you don't trust NASA, there's private space agencies. I'm sorry, but Bezos, Branson, Musk, their stuff is just as fake. I mean, remember Musk sent some people up to space recently? And there was never a point where you saw more than 3 seconds of continuous footage. It's just jump cuts. Okay, moving on. Observing Reality says the China videos were pushed on social media just as hard as fake news on the radio and TV. Yeah, it was like living through War of the Worlds. And it could be the case that, I think a lot of the alien invasion stuff, if you look at it, there's a lot of overlapping symbolism with alien invasion, as in aliens from outer space, and the virus as alien invading inner space. For example, the UFO that crashed in Roswell landed in Corona Field. Men in Black takes place in that Corona Field park. There's a lot of that reference. And I think it ties into this idea of the internal invader being like, more or less, we're prepared for it. Like we were prepared for the quarantining with all the zombie movies. I think Alien Invasion may have been more of the same. There's no way they're going to bring real aliens. There's that series I refer to, Colony, which we often reference, season 3, episode 11, Seattle, Ground Zero for the reboot of civilization. You never see the aliens. And then there was this movie that was released in August of 2020, and it was called Sputnik, about these beings, these aliens that were transmitted by a virus, and he'd bring it back down to the Earth. But as far as is this place a puzzle and you need to escape, that's an interesting concept. But what I'm straying away from is simulation theory because I think it's damage control. It's taking it to the extreme anyway. Like Occam's razor again. What's more likely, that we live in a simulation or we've all been screwed with because we've outsourced a great deal of our perception to the screen? Jim Firebrand says, Manly P. Hall said it's always Ragnarok for someone. Good point. And I used to laugh at the end times people, fire and brimstone, but that's a mainstream belief. It's a mainstream thing. If you're not a believer that we're in the end times, then you don't believe the science. Okay, we have 104 people hanging out here. I'll open up phones here in just a few more moments. I want to make sure we get through all of the critical pieces of information. So again, we just talked about the Joe Rogan thing. I don't know if this is true or not, but supposedly Barron Trump slapped the F out of his nanny in Central Park. Now, he was in the 4th grade at the time, so this is a little while ago. Here's a link. Someone posted this image. Trump has enlisted Barron and his best friend Beau to secure the Gen Z incel vote. And a lot of people are remarking that Barron looks ominous, like very antichristy. And I concur with that, although his dad's the antichrist. But yeah, apparently Mr. Weeks, and he goes on to explain in detail that he was, and he even has pictures, but he says he was watching, and he said, I will say this, she was there at least 80% of the time with the nanny. We all thought he was a serial killer. He has all the signs. The young man barely speaks. I'm not going to go too much deeper into this, but He says he always has the same facial expression. The next day he had a new nanny. We thought she quit until we saw her a month later, and she told us she was fired. Okay, moving on. So here's what I wrote down about this just to see if I missed anything. Here we go. I would argue that somebody positing simulation theory because the news is fake is experiencing a schizophrenic break as a result of gaslighting. And this ties into what I said yesterday when we were talking about the double bind, the cognitive dissonance, that there's no way to reconcile the discrepancy because everybody goes along with the consensus, and then you're seeing something that doesn't match, and you cannot in any way reconcile this, and no one's going to platform media skeptics, so it's never had that. So I think it creates this point where people are willing to entertain a slightly psychotic break, like everything's fake. And I've noticed there's a tendency among many truthers to embrace simulation to reconcile these contradictions. To call the world a sim because of fake news is schizoid and induced by the gaslighter, which is the media. The mass media presents a double bind when it lies, but everybody believes it, and the person who understands it to be fake is told to ignore their perceptions. So when you give up on your own perceptions because they're demonstrated to be invalid, inadequate, then you're forced to resort to something else, delusion, simulation theory, to explain it away. It's too early to presume simulation theory based on the evidence because the evidence is from the TV screen. I mean, unless you experience something in your real life, in the meatverse, that has you questioning this place, then it's not a valid question to raise. Like, is it all fake? Because again, our senses are being filtered through this ubiquitous black cube. Okay, let's see. Stuart McKenzie has found us again. He was on the live stream this morning. He said, that's crazy, and I thought I was censored. Because, yeah, I'd mentioned that we had been pulled off YouTube more than 150 times. And David Hazel said, YouTube told me this morning they removed my comments because I called Dearth a Fed. Now that's intriguing. David Hazel called Dearth a Fed. Now, Dearth, deep inside the rabbit's hole, also known as Flat Earth Dave, is a Fed, in my opinion. Actually, I have a lot of reasons to think so. Beyond that, he's behind the perv, which is unforgivable, and we will never forget that. If you don't know what behind the perv is, ask about it or look in the notes. But YouTube removed his comments. It's like, that's not unheard of. When we initially started the process of trying to hunt down and dox the Goldfinch character, there were YouTube moderators that were deleting people's comments real time, anytime we would mention his name. So that's a real phenomenon. And just to allay the fears of any cloud seeding alarmists, it doesn't work. I mean, it works, but maybe it doesn't. Despite decades, and this is from cloud seeding on Wikipedia, despite decades of research and applications, cloud seeding's effectiveness is a subject of debate. Scientists are still debating whether it even works. Studies offer mixed results on the impact on precipitation. Some suggest it's difficult to show that cloud seeding has a large effect. I kind of wonder, I mean, it could be a similar situation to Crow 777 claiming that you can clear the skies of chemtrails by boiling vinegar. It's just faulty causality. Like, just because they dumped their silver, what is it they dump into the clouds? Depends on what they're using to create the nuclei, but it's not chemicals, I'll tell you that. Okay, cloud seeding aimed, and it is technically weather modification. And people say, you don't believe in weather modification? This is weather modification. Not in the real sense, not in a significant sense. Like your air conditioning, you carry an umbrella. You're modifying your environment. You're modifying it locally, very locally. Yeah, the silver iodide, potassium iodide, and dry ice, or table salt, things that attract moisture. But anyone who's worried about cloud seeding, you have nothing to worry about. You'd have to be beneath the rain cloud, and then they would have to dump some stuff in it to make it even more intense. And the effects might not even be noticeable. And if you look at the cost of it, it might even be more cost effective to go to Sam's Club and get a bunch of bottled water and just dump it from the airplane than cloud seeding. And you would have a more tangible and measurable effect. Like I think it's a hoax. I think it's a huge scam. I'm not worried about it. And if you are worried about it, get an umbrella or wear a mask. Okay, let's see what else. Trump sues America. Okay, is the curtain finally falling down on the dawn? So this is the 47th um, anniversary week of Elvis's death. So I'm expecting a call from Garrow tonight regarding Elvis. So hopefully that comes in. But it's kind of interesting timing. And the Elvis Trump connection is intriguing. And if you didn't know, after he was fake shot, he shows up at the RNC, and the backdrop is designed to look like the Elvis comeback special. And a number of people on the right are kind of whining about the fact that nobody cares that he was shot. Miles Mathis pointed out that there's not really an attention span anymore for serial killers. We haven't had a serial killer in a long time because it's all gone to mass shooting. Mass shooters do it all in one day, get solved. It's like an episode of Scooby-Doo. By the end of the episode, they unmask the bad guy. You get the manifesto. The media serves as the judge, jury, executioner, but they resolve it quick, and then it gets absorbed into the collective psyche and gets inserted into history. But that is the result. I agree with Miles Mathis. It's the result of the public's not necessarily shorter attention spans, but there's more competition for our attention. And in this case, the Trump shooting seems to have faded. So Poker and Politics noted here that Trumpers are mad that the attempted assassination of Trump has no juice and doesn't move the needle anymore. They long for the night of the assassination where most of Twitter was declaring the election over and Trump a shoo-in. And there are a number of people here quoted having little minor meltdowns about it. Laura Loomer said, "It's been 1 month since President Trump was almost assassinated, and today is the 1 month anniversary, and nobody's talking about it." Juanita Broderick, and I think her whole thing with Clinton is fake. Juanita Broderick says, "With the silence on the assassination attempt of President Trump a month ago, we can now assume it was an inside job." He's looking very Elvis-y there. Clandestine says, "It's only been 1 month since Trump was shot and the Dems refused to acknowledge it even happened." Let's say the inverse happened and it was Kamala. We would never hear the end of it. They would be foaming at the mouth 24/7 and the streets would be in flames. They would be shaming Trump supporters in the workplace, smearing us in the media, censoring and banning us. This guy's melting down. But again, this is just a facet of media today. Green Lives Matter says, "I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Trump was nearly assassinated by a lone gunman empowered by our own government, and the media is trying to make the election about anything other than that. Is this even real life?" That's a good question. Is this even real life? Trump almost died for this country, and he's willing to put his life on the line for all of us. And the MSM is trying to say he's a petulant child. What are we even talking about here? We have come a long way since 2016. Anyway, he goes on. He says, "Regardless of the media's continued meddling, people are more awake than ever to their deceptions, but freeing of the matrix must spread like never before." Right? Okay, nobody who is still supporting Trump or who believes he was shot at or that his life was ever in danger is even close to, quote, awakening. And this is what I mean when I say boxes within the box. So this guy made it to Truther Town, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm awake because I'm taking red pills." Well, no, you are in a subset of the blue pill universe. And I checked. The pharmaceutical company that makes the blue pill makes the red pill. It's a different coating. It's bitter as opposed to sweet. But it's the same poison, same pharmaceutical company. It's a subset. It's not outside of the box. It still assumes the essential reality. So whereas the mainstream says, yeah, a lone nut shot him, the person who's deeper in the matrix taking the red pill will say, no, it was the second shooter who was hired by this person. And they come up with these elaborate narratives that don't subtract but add on, which is why I refer to the conspiratorial view as MSM plus. Like, here's the edifice of lies. Let me add on top of it till it makes sense to me. And I'm saying, no, get off the edifice of lies. But yeah, they're mad because they didn't do enough. Okay, continuing. I'm trying to make sure we cover all the most important. Oh, this is the other one. This is a huge one. I want to talk about this today. So Grok has its image generating capabilities for those of you who are paying too much on X, and apparently it's not censored. So here we have Alejandra Carabello, who is a Harvard Law Cyber Law Clinic instructor, and she says, "Oh my God," which is again her shock at these images, which I'll describe. Grok has no filters for its image generation. This is one of the most reckless and irresponsible AI implementations I've ever seen. So here you have an image of Donald Trump, a hilarious image, by the way, with a machine gun, some kind of a, he's got an assault rifle. I love saying assault rifle because it offends the gun fetishists. And he's flying by the Twin Towers, which have just been hit. So it's a pretty crazy image. Somebody rendered that. Here is Ronald McDonald splattered in blood in front of a Burger King. I didn't catch that the first time around. Here's another one. Looks like Goofy has murdered. Who is that on the ground? I don't recognize the character that he killed here. But okay, the other one here is Pokemon with an AR-15. Now, Pokemon's tail doesn't have a black tip. Is this a Mandela effect? But now, here's my point, though. My answer to her was this. Grok is responding to human imagination, human prompts. Is art now a crime? So that's my question. Is art now a crime? Is it really problematic that anybody can render anything from their imagination? Like, hypothetically, what if we woke up tomorrow and everyone in the world just was suddenly really good with crayons, and you can render hyper-realistic images with crayons? Anything you think of, you can render. Should we then ban crayons? And we confronted this with Bing last year when somebody made an image of Mickey Mouse hijacking a plane and flying into the Twin Towers, and Bing was lobotomized. They censor it all kinds now. And I likened it to, hey, one child in the art class did some graffiti, so we take away everybody's paint. But what are we really doing here? They're using AI as a stalking horse to attack free speech, free expression, ideas, creating thought crimes. I can imagine worse images than this, and I could draw them. They might not be the greatest drawings, but it's the same thing. Like, I'm saying that there is no difference in principle between using AI and crayons. What's the difference? One's faster. One's maybe better qualitatively, but in principle, with regard to free speech, it doesn't matter if you're using Grok or Crayolas. You should be able to produce whatever the heck you want to produce. And if you produce something illegal or inciting, that's on you. You take the consequences for your free speech. But this outrage that we're seeing from the left is just an example of how they're all basically anti-free speech tyrants. Okay, he's trying to call in. Let me open my phones now. Again, I wanted to make sure I got the main points. So the main points I wanted to get to tonight is that the simulation theorists are following a guardrail to prevent them from calling out the news as fake, and that Grok and its new capabilities is going to be used as possibly an excuse or really maybe a rationale for censorship, and we shouldn't accept that unless they're willing to also censor art in general. Okay, phones are now officially open. If you want to call in, phones are open. Thank you for feeding the crack, Gwyn. Do I need to turn on the Godzilla sound effects again? I haven't heard them in a minute, but generally when somebody super chats, you have a Godzilla. I just watched a video inadvertently on X of a Komodo dragon eating a donkey, swallowing it whole. Infinite Plane Radio.
Hey, dude, what's up? It's Jurassic.
Hey, what's up? Yeah, I was looking forward to your call tonight. You had covered a lot of ground today, though, but this is the 47th Elvis week. Is that what it is?
Well, it's right now it's Elvis week for a whole week until his death date, which is August 16th. But it's his 47-year death anniversary that's coming up.
Okay, yeah.
And go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, so for anyone, it was August 16th is is Elvis's death day for anybody who didn't know. And so it's a highly significant day that's about to occur in 2 days. So, and 47, of
Well,
course, obviously has some
right.
significant.
Well, what makes it special? Look, here's the thing. I'm not going to sit here and bore you with the numbers because the whole look. What happened was when Elvis died in 1977, that same year in horse racing, which you would say to yourself, well, what's the big deal of horse racing? Well, let me just tell you this: horse racing is known as the sport of kings, okay? And they have this thing called the Triple Crown. So when a horse wins the Triple Crown, it's a big deal, okay? So that year that Elvis died on August 16th, that same year on June 11th, which is the day I'm telling you that Washington, where Seattle is, that Seattle's going to be struck. Seattle Slew won the Triple Crown, a horse called Seattle Slew. And slew means to violently kill. It's like a past tense for the word slay.
Right.
And anyway, the reason I'm bringing that up is because it was the 47-year 47-year anniversary of Seattle Slew winning the Triple Crown this past June 11th. And that was what I was waiting for. But I didn't realize that they were actually waiting for Elvis to be 47 years dead. See, that's the key, because it was not the Seattle Slew that they were waiting for the 47. It was Elvis's death that they were waiting for the 47. So now, first of all, I've been telling you that it was either this year or next year. I wasn't 100%, but it's 1,000,000% next year. That's why I'm telling everybody and anyone who listens that I will not be talking about this ever again if it doesn't happen next year. Okay, that's how sure I am it's going to happen, these two events next year.
Well, I want to point out something here, too, for people who are listening, that this is beyond just dates and numbers. You've uncovered so many things that are just, to me, just underscore everything you're saying. For example, you had brought up the significance of the resemblance between the Georgia Guidestones and the hospital where Elvis was born. And then
No, where he died.
Where he died, excuse me.
Where he's pronounced dead.
He's pronounced
where he's
dead.
pronounced dead.
And the architecture of this hospital looked like the Georgia Guidestones, which has some significance. The Georgia Guidestones looks like a combination of of a Space Needle and the Twin Towers from the side. But anyway, you would remark that they tore down that hospital on 11/6. So
exactly kind of the opposite of what 6/11 would look like, June 11th.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, they demolished it. That's what's important. The fact that they demolished it on 6/11/6, whatever the hell. Oh,
so,
are you there?
Yeah. Sorry about that. We had a caller.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Go on, continue. But yeah, they demolished it on 11/6, which is the reverse of 6/11. These are interchangeable. But what I'm pointing out here is that it's beyond just numbers. You have name codes. You have a lot of things you've picked up on. And
well, let me just go a little bit deeper with that. The Guidestones thing. Georgia Guidestones, first of all, it's the GG, which is 7/7, and Elvis died in 77, but forget about that. The Guidestones went down 42 years after it was erected. It was when it first opened, and Elvis died at age 42, and Washington is the 42nd state, and it's called the Georgia Guidestones. You know what I mean? So that's another big connection right there.
Yeah, that's right. And the 42 thing. So the other day, the closing ceremony for the Paris Olympics had at the beginning of it, they had this golden character descending from the ceiling, and everyone said it's like falling angel Lucifer's 33rd Olympics. But the closing ceremony was Tom Cruise rappelling from the roof, and they said it was 42 meters. So why would they have Tom Cruise rappel 42 meters from the ceiling in front of everybody if it wasn't part of this ritual and this general theme of the fallen angel?
Well, you know why the fallen angel is so important, because I told you the word Space Needle, the words Space Needle equals exactly the same as fallen angel. Every single number is the same. Reduced, backwards, forward, every number. So Space Needle equals fallen angel. So that's why this is so important. Because Elvis was the first famous person that had anything to do with the Space Needle in Seattle when he made that movie It happened at the World's Fair when it first opened. But here's the thing, man, I have all these things in my head. I can't even remember. Oh, about the fallen angel thing, what you were just talking about with Tom Cruise. At the 55th Super Bowl, because Satan equals 55, everything to do with 666, Lucifer, and Satan all connects to Elvis, which I've shown in my videos. But at the 55th Super Bowl, you had that idiot, The Weeknd, who always is in the bandages, which I told you has all to do with Trump. There was a fallen angel in front of him that fell at the 55th Super Bowl.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. I'll have to look back at that one. But yeah, the 55th one, parading around with a head wound. It didn't make any sense. It was grotesque. But I didn't catch the fallen angel thing, but I'll have to go back and watch it again. And all these Super Bowl events are connected. That's why, again, you mentioned this. Barack Purdy, was compared to Lee Harvey Oswald. He's the quarterback. And you put these pieces together. And the Weeknd is a big one. Again, Brock Purdy, BP, or 216. Weeknd, born on 216. Weeknd's name is Abel, like Cain and Abel, head wound, or Abe Lincoln. Like, yeah, it's a tremendously encoded character that you're bringing up here.
Yeah, and speaking of what you just said about the 216, 16-2, because that's the 216th day of the year is August 4th, the 162nd day of the year is June 11th. Those are my two predictions. And the only time in Super Bowl history where the score was 20-16, which is like 216, 16-2, if you take out the zero. So it's 2016. The only time ever in Super Bowl history, that was in 1989. And that year at the Super Bowl was the Elvis halftime Super Bowl. Okay, 20-16, 16-20. And Elvis, he was born in the 20th state and died in the 16th state. So it's every ritual connects to Elvis, okay? Every single one of them.
Yeah, look, you brought up this one. Travis Kelce, Elvis Presley. And when he gets the trophy, he sings Viva Las Vegas. Badly, by the way. But that was like an invocation of Elvis right there at the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and the reason he sang it so badly because he wanted people to remember it. He wanted that to go viral as the worst, rendition of Elvis, And so he's singing Elvis Presley while he's holding the trophy, and the trophy is the Vince Lombardi trophy, and Vince Lombardi is born on June 11th. So Travis Kelce, which sounds like Elvis Presley, he's holding the June 11th trophy. That's what that is, June 11th, the trophy.
Intriguing. And I have a picture here of Elvis from this Elvis Week poster in Graceland, and it has a lightning bolt between the letters of the name Elvis and Week. Just kind of a interesting little tidbit here. But yeah, the 47th, and the number 47 has some extreme significance here as well, since we're talking about the head wound thing, because in the actual Masonic rite where the initiate is killed and resurrected, that whole ceremony, we Hiram Abiff is the name of the person who goes through it, like Biff Tannen.
Right.
But anyway, that whole ceremony is followed by a lecture which focuses on the 47th problem of Euclid, and the number 47 is specifically invoked in reference to that ritual, the head wound, the death, and the resurrection.
Oh wow, that's a good one. Look, like I said, I could go through all the listings of the 47, what the whole point of it all is. And speaking of 1989, just like I told you about that Super Bowl, the only time was the Elvis halftime Super Bowl where the score was like that. I could show you hundreds of connections to the 2016, 16, 20 with Elvis, but that Super Bowl was in 1989, and both Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift were both born in 1989. And that creature named its album 1989, and Taylor's version, which is TV, which equals 42 TV. But it was the 1989 connection. And why was that so important, that 1989? Because that year is the year they did the Space Needle hoax.
Oh,
they said that the Space Needle fell.
The April Fool's Day hoax. And
right.
We were way more hoaxable decades ago. Like now we can somewhat fact check things, but people thought it was real until they were told otherwise.
Yeah, people were panicked. I mean, can you imagine? You have some family near the Space Needle, and they tell you the Space Needle just collapsed. And the guy looks so serious. You can play that video for the people who want to see it. You won't get a copyright for that because I don't think that.
I'll bring it up. There's a lot here. Look, king5.com. The April Fool's Day prank that sent Seattle into a panic. Yeah.
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 But anyway, forget it. You don't have to play it. It looked real, except when they showed the witness, that completely looked like a fraud. But everything looked real. The newscaster looked so real, So anyway, so they say the thing collapsed on 4/1/89, right?
Right.
Now, I told you Elvis died at the age of 42, and it's 47 years later now, his death. And this is when it's going to happen on June 11th next year. It's still going to be Elvis will be dead for 47 years. So he died at 42 and 47 years later. So from the day he died to the day of that Space Needle hoax on 4/1/89, it's 4,247 days. From the day Elvis died to the day of that Space Needle hoax, it's 4,247 days, okay? Now, from that day, 4/1/89 to 9/11 is 4,547, which is Trump, 4547. You get what I'm saying? So it's connecting to both. It's the middle ground between the 4247 and 4547.
Got it. Yeah, these relationships are deep. So you got the numbers, you got the dates between, and we have so many ridiculous examples of Trump's birthday figuring heavily in these various psyops. Like you brought up Heather McDonald, the comedian who fell and hit her head. She's got Trump's birthday. You got the sniper I brought up recently in Saving Private Ryan.
Don't forget Norm Macdonald too.
Oh yeah, Norm Macdonald. What now? Him, the Donald, and then of course they described it as a head thing at first. But what is his birthday?
I forget. I just know he had big connections too, also with the dates and stuff. Oh man, go ahead. I lost my concentration.
Earlier we were talking about the hoax of the Space Needle and how the date from the hoax, for the number of days, it has the 42 and the 47.
Oh yeah, here you go. Someone was mentioning, why are we talking about June 11th now? See, the reason we're talking about this right now is because Elvis's death anniversary is coming up, and there might be huge predictive programming either tomorrow or Friday. And I'll tell you why it's possible tomorrow, even though Elvis's death date is August 16th. Because it's a leap year, August 16th actually falls on August 17th day. So that's why tomorrow would be actually August 16th, but it's actually August 15th because it's a leap year. So that's why look for something either tomorrow or most likely on August 16th. And the reason I'm saying that is because why has Iran waited to make a move on, these, I don't want to say their name. I don't want to get any algorithms, but you get what I'm saying. Why have they not retaliated? What are they waiting for? Why are they waiting for the United States to have all their ships and submarines come over there before they do any attack?
Right, and not to mention, we've had number of people pointing out Iran had some kind of possible involvement in the Trump thing, and so there's a lot of that buzz being brought up right now, and yeah, this is the perfect timing of it. So you're saying we should watch basically the 15th,
most likely the 16th, 15, 16, because it's a leap year. That's the only reason. Because Elvis's death anniversary is actually August 16th, but because it's a leap year, you got to give or take a day. But not just because it's a death date, it's because it's the 47-year death anniversary. That's the whole point.
Yes.
That's the key. And by the way, I know I'm talking a lot because I only have a certain amount of time. I know I need to get someone else going because your chat. But look, why is this 1977? Have you ever seen that iPad goat where the antichrist is coming up out of the ground and then there's a big explosion?
Yeah.
You've seen that, right?
Yeah.
And do you know what that's depicting? It's depicting the 1977 sculpture of inside the Vatican, inside Audience Hall, I think. That crazy weird statue that looks like a
It looks like it belongs in the Church of Satan, but it's supposedly Jesus. But it's like it is the craziest thing I've ever seen.
You want?
Yeah, I have it on the
Yeah,
screen. It's
yeah.
bizarre.
It's called the resurrection, and it's supposed to be depicting Jesus rising out of a nuclear crater in the Garden of Gethsemane. I mean, what kind of ridiculous, nonsense is? And it looks
Wait
like
a
a
minute.
Baphomet.
So I got to read about this because the association of Jesus with a nuke. Well, where did they do the original tests for the atom bomb? The Trinity site. And there's got to be some subtext here. And something else I want to bring up here. Trump tweeted again for the first time since they banned him. And he did so right as he reached exactly 88 million followers. So the 88 and Trump. Any thoughts on that?
Well, you know, look, the 88 is important. And can I tell you why the 88 is so important? It's because, oh, man. Because look, the words the Antichrist equals 154. Pay attention real quick. The Antichrist equals 154. If you just add up the letters, 154 it makes up the letters of the numbers 15 and 4, and the letter O is the 15th letter of the alphabet. So if you have 4 O's, they look like 2 8. 4 O's look like 2 8 if you put them on top of each other.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. So that's why the 88 is very important, because it looks like 4 O's,
And
anyway,
and we also know there's a ton of 88 stuff like the Twin Towers, the Heroes on Floor 88, the 88 Lights, Trump and Biff Tannen, the whole 88 miles per hour. So it's been there this entire time. And then one more thing, we talk about Super Bowls. Super Bowl 47 was the blackout bowl when it went dark for 33 minutes. And then in 1977, you had the Manhattan blackouts at 42nd Street on, which happened again in the same place 42 years later to the day. So there's a lot of significance to 1977 and blackouts, and the Super Bowl 47 blackout was the theme.
Yeah, but don't forget that what you're seeing in that Vatican thing is basically telling you that they're going to rebirth the Antichrist out of a nuclear blast, like I've been predicting. Okay, so if they're going to birth the Antichrist, and that happened right after Elvis died, they opened that exhibit, by the way. It was in 1977, right after Elvis died. I think it was like 43 or 44 days later, or 42 days later.
Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, so this has been there since September 28th, 1977, the resurrection by Fazzini. And it does, yeah, okay, this is pretty incredible. It's bronze and brass. And guess how tall it is. Just take a guess. You'll get this one, I think.
Let me think.
I'll give you a hint.
18 feet?
I'll give you a hint.
18?
Twin.
66 feet?
Yeah, 66 feet tall.
Wow, that's crazy. I don't think I even knew that. I think I might have in the past, I might have looked at it, but you have any more to say on that?
No. It's just the first time I saw it, I'm like, that's intriguing. I had no idea it was that huge.
Crazy. But can I tell you why I brought that up? Because I told you Elvis is the Phoenix, right? And he died at the age of 42. That sculpture was at when he turned 42. Actually, it was like 42, 43 days later. I don't remember. But when it came out after his death. But Elvis died at the age of 42, and Washington's the 42nd state. And guess where? And I just said Elvis is the Phoenix. Guess where Super Bowl 42 was?
Where?
At Phoenix University.
Okay, the Phoenix again. And for people who don't know, the Phoenix symbol was always synonymous with Christ, and this death, resurrection, and Elvis is always associated with the Phoenix, and really prevalent symbol here all around. And we're constantly seeing this, and the Phoenix cycle it seems to be the repeated theme here. Burn down, build back better. So this is interesting because it's suggesting that Trump's resurrection will follow the blast, the EMP, however they're going to do it. But again, 6/11.
Yeah, and like I said, we'll see. Look, man, I could go on all day with the predictive programming connections and stuff like that. But I know you always talk about Bowie. I just want to make sure you, every time you mention the Black Star, Dark Star thing, make sure you always mention that Elvis he's the only one with a black star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
That's right. And it wasn't made black. It turned black, didn't it?
Oh, no, I think they actually made it black.
And
I don't know where you said, I don't know where you got that.
I'll see if I can. I'll see if I can find out. Okay,
No,
so it says here. I'll see if I can find
no,
it.
they moved it. No, they moved it because it was getting dirty. But no, they changed it and made it black.
Okay. Interesting. So that is then high. Okay, there it is. Yeah, they made it black. And someone pointed out here that the Paris ceremony. You know, we talked about the Tom Cruise falling 42 meters, but Lean Dion points out a band called Phoenix did the closing ceremony, and the opening band was Gojira. Gojira means Godzilla. Godzilla was created to be a metaphor for the atom bomb, the nuke. So you have the nuke at the opening, and you have Phoenix playing at the end.
I'm glad you brought that up because I mentioned it. You know who the singer of that band is, the Phoenix?
No, never heard of him actually. Who is it?
I think it's Thomas Mars. Okay, and the reason I'm bringing that up is Thomas means twin, right?
Yeah.
And guess who his wife is?
Who?
You want to look it up real quick? Thomas Mars' wife?
Yes, Sofia Coppola. Okay, is she connected to the director?
She's Francis Ford Coppola's whatever, some relation. But just like that stupid Nicolas Cage who loves Elvis and married Lisa Marie. But Sofia Coppola did the Priscilla movie. You know, the Elvis. She did the Priscilla movie, the latest. That was her, big.
Okay, that's actually pretty big here, and I've brought up Francis Ford Coppola recently, because his new movie Megaopolis begins, and I saw the trailer. It begins with space junk falling or something falling from space, and you see the Statue of Liberty all busted up. And as soon as that trailer came out, it was reported in the news that an old Russian satellite had exploded. It had blown up, space junk hit it or something, and its pieces were endangering the space station. Well, in Vanity Fair, he's talking about his new movie, and it opens up with a Russian satellite falling to the ground. So that movie has connections we can get into, but this is pretty deep here. That she is.
Yeah, and the reason I brought up this is the last thing I want to say. My throat's starting to hurt again, man. Because I have to do a live stream in an hour. Listen, the reason I brought the Black Star thing again because I'm telling you guys that somehow Elvis's name, either his name, his image, or the number of his name is going to be the mark of the beast. Now, and how you know that is because of everything connected to his name. Because, everybody in the world wears Levi's, right? Levi's is the anagram for Elvis. Everybody, and it's in your genes, get it? Like your DNA. And the word lives, Elvis is evils, but the lives is what's important because they were saying black lives. What they're saying is the black star. Elvis is the star. The lives is the lives. Is Elvis, that word. And that's why it was all across the world. They had to put Elvis's name. It's subconsciously, they're putting Elvis's name into everybody's head, subconsciously.
Yeah, I concur. And I like your breakdown of the Levi's and Elvis and the upside down crown and the R on it. It's all very well connected, and I think you've nailed it here. And you'll be live in an hour. So let me go ahead. I'm going to drop in the chat the link to your channel, and I'll make sure I put the right one here. And go ahead and get that really quick before I get you off the phone. And
but just real quick, if they're going to come to watch any of my videos, go to the live stream section, and in the last 3 videos, just watch part 1 and 2 of these certain videos under the live stream section. One of the last 3 ones, just watch part 1 and 2 in order because I'm about to do part 3 today, and then tomorrow I'm going to do part 4, and that's all connected to the August 16th. The turning 47 death anniversary. Why it's so important. That's why I need to get that out before August 16th, just in case they do something. But it doesn't mean it has to happen. I'm talking about a predictive programming event. It doesn't have to happen because they've already done their rituals. The Seattle Slew was the ritual already on June 11th back in '77. So they don't really have to do anything. So we'll see what happens on Elvis's death anniversary.
Very good.
Anyway, brother.
Thanks for the call, and I'll put a link below. So after my live stream, I'll probably jump over to your channel, and we'll bring some other people over. So thanks for calling.
All right. Hey.
Uh-huh.
Don't forget to tell everybody that the time where he got shot, Trump, is 6/11. All right, take care. Bye.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mentioned that earlier, 6/11, because we had a commenter, Isabel, in here, who had made a prediction about the head wound thing seconds before it happened. We had a comment from Elephant Tusks who said that Godzilla has nothing to do with the nukes. And let me just point this out really quick here. The original Godzilla drew inspiration for the atomic bomb that was dropped in Hiroshima. And you can also find other information about this. A hydrogen bomb test in Bikini Atoll inspired the first Gojira, which is the name of the band that opened the Paris Olympics. And then the busted up Statue of Liberty is a reference to Planet of the Apes, which is all about a post-nuke world. Infinite Plane Radio.
John the Plumber.
Hey, what's up, John the Plumber?
Who was the last caller?
Garrow.
He's great.
Yes. Great breakdown and analysis of this very, I mean, it's a thread. It's a web. It's a web of interlocking narratives that connects everything to some singularity. We're having some kind of psyop singularity. That's what's coming.
There's probably like a circle of somewhere, I would say probably between 20 and 40 people that call in all the time, at least once a month or once a week, and I love them all. And that's what's great about this place is we all get to throw our ideas out. Sometimes you get a crazy idea. You do a bong rip, you don't know. I'm like, maybe we're stuck in a computer, right? You throw it out there, you look up on the screen, and you see what I look at the comments, and sometimes people laugh at me, and sometimes people agree, and that's what's great about this place is I'm not hard set on everything, you know. I went to church for the last 2 years. I was like an atheist my whole life. I went to church for the last 2 years, and I just got more anxiety. I don't like really going anymore, but I think it's worth jumping around and talking to different kinds of people, even if it's for a month, a week, or just one time. You go sit in a room one time and listen to people talking. It's worth listening to different points of view. And that's kind of like what we do in here in this group is different people call in. We throw our ideas out, and sometimes they're good ideas and sometimes they're bad ideas.
Yeah, let me run this by you, because I've been noticing a lot of talk about sim theory from Joe Rogan and others. So have you ever experienced anything in your real life, not the internet, have you ever experienced anything in your real life that would convince you that we're in a simulation? Because I would point out that even the Mandela affected would not have arrived at that were it not for seeing something on the internet.
If we are in a computer digital world, something akin to the Matrix, or a organic programmed world like with the demons and angels,
but
or
where do you arrive at the idea that this is a simulation? Like, because what I'm pointing out here is that this is the only platform for an objectivist breakdown of the media and the world stage construct. So this is we have a very objective position.
If we're not completely free. It is a simulation of some sort, whether if it's digital or even if it's an organic world, or kind of programmed, or even if people are acting and pretending like a stage, it's still a simulation. Like
what is that? Wait, but
is a simulation
when you say simulation, what are you saying? As in,
I'm saying like the artificial comparison of something that you expect to be real and legitimate and tangible and genuine. But if it's anything otherwise, like even a movie, like the something similar to the Truman Show. The Truman Show was a simulation of reality, but it was an organic simulation of a life to program for a TV show, right? Like if let's say there were aliens and they were watching us, and our entire world is some big TV show for some kind of weird alien, that would be a simulation, even if we're all real people and
But
like
why
all
do
the
we have to
politicians and
introduce?
all.
Why do we have to introduce gods
That's
and
still a
why do we have to
simulation.
introduce gods and aliens? Why can't we just say it like it is? The power elite have put the sheeple into a wilderness of darkness. They have put the sheeple into a simulation by design. We are a brainwashed species. That's the
Then
simulation.
there's a whole class of people above regular people
Yeah.
that are almost aliens.
No.
They
Well,
might as well be aliens. They could be super people that may exist. There could be, like, let's say an average person is like an IQ of somewhere between like 90 and 110, and a really smart person is somewhere around 180. But what if there's people out there that are just human, just like us, but they're like 400 IQ, and they live to be
I look.
200
I have to
years?
reject it.
What
Look, I have to. I will automatically and always reject any divine fallacy. Like I can't think about how this works, so I must posit the existence of a supreme mind, a supercomputer, an AI, a
it's just
demiurge,
regular
or
people living
regular
the
people
world.
with 400 IQs. Like I think we need to stick to what we know and work our way
It's
in.
just like people like just like uh manuscriptors, basically, like Stanley Kubrick's and
Yeah, because
Spielberg are basically
the
running the
instant
world.
you default to the unexplained, the supernatural, you just basically hit a wall. Now you have nowhere else to go. You
Been
have all,
programmed. I've been programmed. I admit it, and I hate to admit it, but I've been programmed by Hollywood. Like,
this
I
is the
love the
programming.
Matrix.
This is how it works.
Like,
Joe Rogan's like this
I was
guy.
here with like Fight Club and The Matrix and all these great ass movies through the early 2000s, and it's hard not to be programmed. Like, so that's their goal, man, is to make you think like it's something supernatural, but really it's just greedy weird fucks
Yeah,
that want to own the world.
that's more like it because what Joe Rogan's doing is he's reaching out to people like you who are saying, okay, something else is going on, but instead of going for the mundane Occam's razor, stripped down, what do we know, the subtractive route, they have you reaching for there must be something higher. And the instant they get you to accept that, you're admitting to yourself, my mind is incapable of knowing what this really is. And it's to make you give up. It's to make you stop short of the finding the answers. They don't want you to pull back the curtain. And that's what I'm aiming at here.
Did you see the comparison I made on Total Recall, though, about the how they go through the Earth, or you haven't gotten around to it?
I haven't watched it yet, but I'm going to watch the reboot of Blade Runner because Total Recall, because as you described it, they use tunnels to travel to the other place, which is here on Earth. And I think that if you combine the two movies, you'll get the real picture about what the Mars program is ultimately for.
So in the chat, I posted a link of this guy Anton Petrov. Like, when I was still believing in science and astronomy and stuff, like there was a time like where I heard about flat Earth, but I just couldn't give up on all the shit that I had learned about planets and galaxies and stuff. Like I had spent so much time memorizing like how far a galaxy is from this other. You know what I mean? I'm looking at this, I just flushed it all down the toilet. Well, I watched this video where he gives like a very detailed map of the Earth and all these different detailed maps of the Earth and how to break it down to these three-dimensional origami shapes. But in all the pictures, he never just showed a basic azimuthal equidistant. And I'm saying that that's not exactly it. It could be some kind of variation, but he didn't show that one. Like, I don't understand like why the smartest people in the world, they have all these crazy science channels, they're so afraid to depict the shape of the Earth, or where the hell are we? What is this place? And I mean, I guess like what we're supposed to be doing here, that could all be interpreted on a personal level. But like, can you just give us an accurate map of what this fucking place looks like, please?
Right, right. Well, hey, listen to this comment from Nicotramus. The moment you throw your hands up and declare simulation, you let the bad guys off the hook. And that's been my point. Because every simulation theorist has no clue about metascriptors. They're looking at, no, nothing's real. Your perceptions don't matter. That's gaslighting. Anybody who says to you, your perceptions are invalid, your concept of reality is false, if they're trying to say that your perceptions are off, well, they're gaslighting you. And what the mass media does is it provides a model of the world that's not always faithful, and that area where it's not faithful constitutes simulation. So we're framed by simulation, it's augmented hyperstitions. And when people confront this without a full understanding of what media is, they resort to nothing's real, everything's a simulation, which is akin to saying that you're getting some kind of, it's almost an argument for divine inspiration of media. And I'm like, no, we're not in a simulation. Anybody telling me so, call me and prove to me, or tell me what's your evidence. Have you experienced evidence of a simulation outside of the TV? And I don't think so.
No, only deja vu, which makes me feel like I've lived infinite lives, and that's kind of spooky. Like, I feel like I used to tell people this, like when I was like 15, 16, when you're like at that age where you first start smoking weed and drinking beer in the woods with your buddies and stuff, I'd be like, bro, like, what if we just like lived infinite times, man? And like, when you experience deja vu, man, you're just like remembering the last time you were here in the circle of like time and shit. And all my friends would be like looking up at the stars and we'd be like, whoa. I used to believe in aliens back then. Now I don't believe in aliens anymore. Now I don't know what.
Do you believe in angels? Do you believe in angels?
No, because like I'm pretty sure all religion's bullshit. But I would say there's probably humans, there's animals, and there's probably things that we don't even really fully understand yet. I don't know what they are. I don't know if they're angels, demons, or aliens. But there's probably things somewhere between us and the grand source.
Well, according to Tucker Carlson, angels are demons. And now everybody in conspiracy realm, whether it's Trutherville or just on the far right, their take on it is aliens are demons, and there's a big deception to get us to worship the cult of scientism when these aliens come down. And that's why the left is in love with aliens and the right fears aliens. It's all by design. And I think they're obviously part of a bigger hoax. But yeah, aliens or demons is the new thing.
That's how I knew how to get out. Like, I was in it for like a year or two. I was going to church every Sunday and everything. And I was like, you know, if the whole world's running, like people that were doing bad shit just a couple years ago, and everyone's about to get saved now, maybe it's all fucked. Like maybe I should just hey,
I have a question.
Go to any kind of.
I have a question for Elephant Tusks and anybody else espousing simulation theory. Like, if you concluded that this is all a hoax, that nothing is real, or that we're in a sim, why would you care about fake news? I would ask the same of the Mandela affected. If you're Mandela affected and you've concluded that reality is shifty and no facts are objective, then what does it matter?
You don't remember Curious George having a tail, though? Like, I'm in my 40s. I'm in my mid-40s. I don't know if I just watch weird cartoons, or I don't know what I remember, but, like, I'm pretty sure Curious George did have a tail, though. Like, that's the one. Like, I don't care about Luke, Are You My Father? I don't care about Anne Rice books, none of that shit. But the Curious George tale, man, it keeps me up at
It's a false memory.
I want to know.
It's a false memory. Here's how it works.
False memory.
Here's how it works. You can't tell me where you were sitting and what was in the room with you, around you, when you saw him with the tail. But you can easily imagine him with the tail because that's easy to do. And then it's easy to file that prompted imagining with your real recollection. And that's what's happening. When I say, can you imagine Curious George with the tail? Your subconscious automatically produces that image. And then you recall it as though it's a memory. It's falsely processed. And that's what they're doing. Mandela effect is screwing with your mind. And I can prove it. If you look at the various examples, look at the Innocence Project and all the faulty eyewitness testimony that gets people convicted, it's because these people are Mandela affected. It all has to do with how you frame the question, and you get somebody to recall what is actually a prompted imagining as though it were a memory. Easy to do. False memories are real.
I had this crazy idea the other day, like I feel guilty of being afraid of almost somehow American culture in a way is I've at least been told from the news that American culture is being diluted and everybody's just sneaking into our country and everything's screwed. My son's half. My ex-wife is Brazilian, and so my son's half Brazilian. So they're nice people and everything. So but everything I watch on TV is foreigners are sneaking through our country. And then they say, well, yeah, it's just a way for the Democrats to get new years. That's what they're saying on the news. But you know what I noticed? It's happening all over the world. They're saying that people are coming into countries that are sneaking in, but it's happening in places like where they have like different government systems. Like, why are they trying to make people afraid of? Maybe it's just like we're not producing enough people, and we kind of need more people to move into our country.
Wait,
I
wait,
don't know
wait.
why.
That's a great point you just
We're
brought up.
being conditioned
No,
to be
because the
afraid.
right wing is uniformly
Happening
convinced.
all over the world.
The right wing is uniformly convinced that we're running out of people, that we don't have the replacement
We're
rate.
running out of
You
people.
need to have more babies, and yet they see millions of migrants coming, and they say we're being invaded. It's like you want more people, but you don't. So it's kind of like, what is it? Do you need more people, or you don't need more people? But the right is told that they're coming to kill them, and the left says that they're coming to work. And it's the same thing with aliens, extraterrestrials. The attitudes are the same. Right wing is afraid of illegal aliens and extraterrestrials. Left wing loves
Like,
both.
what if you were told we can guarantee you that if we don't let a certain amount of people in to make up for the amount of people that are dying, that nobody's reproducing? Think about it. Like, my grandma was like one of 20. My mom was like one of 6. My dad was one of 6. There was a time when people had a bunch of kids. I only had one. I have one son, and that's it. There's a lot of people not having any kids. So, like, maybe this is happening all over the world. So when there's parts of the world where like nobody's having kids, and then they let people from third world countries in, maybe this is happening to. I'm not saying I'm a pretty conservative guy. I don't want to think like we should just let everybody into our country. If there was a way we could do it like secure, and that there was no threat, and that we're not letting criminals into our country, but just like I feel like we're being programmed to be afraid of foreigners. I'm guilty of it. I feel like I've been programmed too, but then I found out it was happening all over the world
Well, that's
at the
also
same
the
time.
thing is, okay, no, here's the thing. People are always traveling everywhere. But if again, this is part of the schism, and it's bifurcated, which means it's mind war and you can just ignore it. The left says,
I've met a lot of
I mean, the
Americans
left
that want to
says
leave.
we
Like,
got we have
if you're
working age
told,
males crossing the border, and the right says we have military age males crossing the border. They can't both be right. What is it? Are they military age, or are they workers? Are they coming to kill or coming to work? And the fact is, it depends on where you lean politically, what you decide to believe. And it's to me, this is just mind war. Political footballs are kicking around. I have no use for it because it's mind war. And once you see it's mind
if
war,
you vote
you,
for global lockdown, you could be locked down. Like, you might want to go somewhere one day on a vacation. You might want to move for a better opportunity, a new job, a new love, a girl, somebody. You might want to leave one day. And if you vote for lockdowns, you might be trapped. Or the walls that you vote to protect you could contain you one day. And I'm not saying I think that the world should be global, and we all should just go whatever. We like should probably like keep an open mind, and it's something we should think about. Like, it's something that we've been programmed to be afraid of, and I don't know. I mean, I'm in Florida, so there's so many different kinds of people in Florida. I've never lived in a more diverse state, and it's just something I think about. I don't know.
well, yeah, xenophobia is programmed, and it's like I'm telling you, it's part of the bifurcated psy war. And if you fall for that, it's because they programmed you to. If you don't fall for it, it's like it's just cliche at this point. Like there's so many people who just fall into these boxes so easily, and it's like, oh, you're worried about military age men. It means you probably think that aliens are demons, and you wouldn't have thought that if some right wing influencer hadn't pumped that meme out there. And I'm not following right wing conspiracy FBI fed memes. These agents, contractors or otherwise, these informants. There's a lot of shills, is what I'm saying. And these are government narratives that are. That's why Tucker Carlson keeps saying that he believes in aliens, they're demons, the government works with demons. Well, it makes sense because the right wing has the anti-government position, and the government's colluding with illegal aliens and apparently extraterrestrials.
I don't trust any of these guys because I know for a fact, like, I mean, like, they really know how to hit your trigger points, but then they do weird shit. Dayton Tucker, like, I love him in so many ways. He does a lot of things that I like, but didn't he do something a weird ago? Didn't he have, like, somebody weird on his show, like, a year ago? I can't remember who it was, but it sent the whole fucking world crazy, and it made no sense. And to me, he was telling me behind the scenes, like, it was too hard for you to process. Behind the scenes, really, he was saying, we're all friends. No, it's true. We all go to the same circle jerk parties once a year, and they jump from show to show.
Yeah,
They
hey,
jump from
let me
channel to
bring up
channel.
one more thing too. I think white genocide's a hoax. It's tied into anti-vax. It's tied into border paranoia and fear of aliens. Like I'm going to put together all of my manuscripts, and I need especially the focus on the bifurcation of the Psywar, and if you fall into it, you're in the box. And I'm not in their political horseshoe. I'm not scared of foreigners or whatever. I'm not scared of aliens. But anyway, I got a commenter here who says something. A virtual reality witness says, Tim denies the King James Bible used to say wineskins instead of bottles. I want to point out, I'm not denying that the Bible used to say wineskins instead of bottles. I'm saying that you haven't provided evidence that it was ever bottles. The burden of proof is on the person making the extraordinary claim. So if you're a Mandela affected person and you can't prove it, then I can just dismiss your claim that you're basically lying to yourself and then spreading it to others. And I think you're lying basically. And that's, in fact, if you're going to say the Bible changed because of the Mandela effect, you're violating one of the commandments about lying and bearing false witness. So there's 2 strikes against you.
Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? You know what? Like in the 90s, I remember like when Rodney King happened. I was like in middle school or whatever. I was pretty young, and it was pretty crazy that 1 year. But after that, all the way until I was a young adult, shit was pretty peaceful. We had like a decade of like, I don't remember people talking about racism or race wars or any of that
Wait.
shit. Like, I
Maybe
thought
you didn't
we
pay
had
attention.
succeeded.
Maybe you didn't pay attention. I mean, you can find it. Hal Turner, David, as far back as you go. The programming's been there, but maybe you weren't tuned into it. But now it just has more reach than ever before. That's what's changed. Like all the weird conspiracy theories we hear about, they're not new, but you had to really reach and search for them. But now they're all at your fingertips. Now everything is equally accessible. That's the main difference.
Do you think it's really for loot, or do you think it's for money? You personally.
It's it's worldview warfare. That's all it is. It's worldview warfare. It's government by media, government by mind control. It's ubiquitous. There's only one government when it comes down to it. Anyway, I appreciate the call very much, and call back anytime. I want to address a lot of the comments in here and open the phones up for Elephant Tusks in case he wants to explain how everything's a simulation.
Good night, brother.
All right, thanks for the call. I have a few voicemails I want to get to here. So let me bring these up. You can leave voicemails, 505-510-4226 anytime. Okay. No, that's an old one. Okay, I have a number of transcripts here to read through. Let's see what we have. Tom103 says, water into wine is about the ton, a large barrel in most EU languages. A new ton science. Nicotrama says, I want to know if John the Plumber's high on weed when he calls in. Yeah, John the Plumber is a frequent caller, and appreciate all of his calls, obviously. Someone wanted me to ask him how much he charges per hour. I didn't get the information. I should have asked. If you're in Florida and you need a plumber. Plain Decoded says, the economy is a giant multi-level marketing scheme, so they need more people at the bottom. Yeah, here's what I'm saying about, like, I'm not a reality denialist, but I'm also, I reject all the augmentations. And the people who believe that there's some mass invasion going on are believing what they see on the screen. And I'm asking you, is that your source? Like, if you can't firsthand provide me evidence that there's an alien invasion or illegal alien invasion, it just sounds like recycled propaganda. It sounds like 2015 all over again. Or back when Obama was running, I remember people saying, they're going to smuggle in Middle Eastern terrorists through Mexico wearing sombreros, but they'll have bomb vests on and they're going to blow us up because terrorism. It never happened. Whatever happened to the invading Islamic terrorists disguised as Mexicans? And then fast forward 19 years later, after COVID, they were saying there's a bunch of Chinese people coming in here. Remember that? Do you remember all these propaganda mules calling in or just commenting like the Chinese are infiltrating, they're coming to the southern border? The Chinese are taking over the police stations. It went from stealth jihad, where jihadists were infiltrating the police departments, the legal justice system, that they were taking over, and they're going to convert us to Sharia law. And then it became China. I'm like, well, what happened to Islamic terrorism? Now we're worried about the CCP. So these are recycled stories that scare the right wing and that never amounts to anything. A lot of psyops on both sides. Deprogram Truth that says, because of the plumber that called Rush Limbaugh that became famous. Oh, really? Did Limbaugh boost the profile of a plumber? Okay, let's move on here. Virtual reality witness says Tim's job is to gaslight, gatekeep, and guardrail you to think you live in a physical, non-supernatural realm. No, I'm saying that the gaslighting and the gatekeeping and the guardrail is on the other side. I'm not on Team Joe Rogan. If you're like, whoa, mind blown, Elon Musk said we're in a sim, we must be in a sim because the news is so obviously faked, you're gaslit and you're a guardrail. I'm the only one saying, in fact, I coined the phrase guardrail. Guardrailed explanations that prevent you from calling out the fakery of media. The people who think, oh, reality's fake, think they've already slayed everything. We've already figured this out. Universe is fake, everything's a sim. Well, then why do you care about the news? Why do you care? That's my question. Like, if you're Mandela affected, you've debunked reality. Who cares about fake news? But no, I'm still down here on Earth. I exist in objective reality. I refuse to deny the reality of my perceptions and my experiences. And that doesn't mean I adhere to the heliocentric model, their dead corpse universe, with a bunch of evolved apes on a ball with our big egos contemplating the universe because we can't accept it's meaningless. Like, I reject that. But I'm not going to go from this objective based breakdown of media to nothing is real. Let's just speculate, anything goes. Like, no, I don't think so. That's where they want you. They want you listening to Joe Rogan and taking DMT and thinking you figured it all out. And then you go vote for someone like RFK Jr. and think you're making a difference. We're past that. Bastard and C-Word says, Ireland here is objectively flooded with unvetted. The country took 20 years to be replaced. Fascinating. Okay, well, I mean, it is a real thing, obviously. We have issues around here as well, but the way it's characterized and exaggerated, that's where it gets to be psyopy. And so we're talking about crime statistics, for example. I hear people bandy about statistics and they say this group does this percentage of the crime and they make up this percent of the population, and they just repeat these things like mantras, but it doesn't add up. And one of the things that typifies the bifurcated psy war, when there's some kind of psyop and both sides are looking at it with, like, one side thinks we're running out of people, one side thinks we have too many. With any of these, I just suggest here that these are meant for you to fight over. Like, why else would you go vote? Well, we got to vote for Trump to stop the illegal immigrants from coming in. That's the whole point of it. Nobody was talking about it 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And now, coincidentally, you have all these psyops where now suddenly the illegal immigrants are getting stabby and creating these high-profile events in order for people to respond. But anybody saying that I'm gaslighting doesn't understand gaslighting. The gaslighter is the person who says, you can't trust your senses. What you see is fake. What you feel is fake. Nothing is real. It's like, okay, cool. Like these people who say they manifest their realities. It's like, okay, you're a genie. Good for you. But prove it to me. That's all I'm asking. Like, if you're saying it's a simulation, then call in. My opinion is that simulation theory was planted there to hide the real simulation. The everything's a sim hides that the news is a sim. The news is a simulation, so I half agree with you. But I'm here to unveil objective reality, to remove the hoodwink. If you want to disrupt or level the playing field, if you want to level the playing field between the programming class and the programmed sheeple, remove the digital veil. Pull off the hood, initiate everybody. Show them all the light. And any of you here who've been, or if you've read the Masonic rituals, when you get into these societies, when they initiate you, it's usually the same template. You go in with a bag over your head and a rope around your neck, like a leash. And then you're told, you're dressed up like a fool. Like that's why you see them with one shoe off, half their shirt off. They look like fools on purpose. It's called slipshod. And then they're told, if you swear this oath, we'll tell you the secrets. And you're now shown the light. And the difference is that those inside the temple have seen the light. Those outside live in what they call the wilderness of darkness. So this is an admission that they are setting themselves apart from those who do not have the same security clearance. A secret society is a security clearance society. The blood oaths are NDAs. The programming class is a hierarchy and it's stratified based on a need-to-know basis about how fake things are. But the objective fact, which we have really unveiled here, largely through our study of predictive and concurrent programming, is that we do in fact live in a news-bent reality where they write the history in advance and act out these major scenes like a reality TV show. They simulate. Most of our historic events are simulations. So there is a point to this. The point of it is, yeah, there's a simulation. It's the construct. The model is not the territory. The simulation is not the territory. That's what I actually titled the live stream tonight. The simulation is not the territory. And this is a key point because nothing will distract you more from the truth than accepting a convenient and easy to digest explanation, aka a lie, a misdirection. Okay, phones are open if anybody else wants to call in. I'm going to continue to go through the notes here. Humberto Dark Regards shared this. Was Wally George some sort of prototype Donald Trump? His tagline was, "Keep America number one." And he looks like a proto-Trump, if you ask me. He's got the same hair color, same hairstyle. And I checked out this video, and it looks like a template to me. I actually tweeted this at Human Vibrations, who often points out templates. And this could easily be a template. This is from a TV show. And this shows you that, and I watched part of this. This is from 1990. So to address what John the Plumber said, he said he remembers things being more peaceful and there wasn't all the racism and all the bicker. No, it was always there. This is from 1990. I'll just play a short clip.
I did not say Larry, I said they hate you because that's the truth. Hold on. Explain to me why they hate you. I'll explain to you. Because you're killing women and children every second I'm talking.
This is an argument between a pro-Palestine and a pro-Israel guy. And then here you have the Wally George, who is very Trumpish here.
You're giving speeches. I brought facts. Hold on. We'll continue.
And I thought, he's not very Trumpy except for his looks. And then they went to a commercial break, and he was pitching some product, and it reminded me of Trump selling his Trump steaks. So, he's kind of a salesman grifter type. So there's quite a lot there. Again, Wally George, possibly a Donald Trump template. And this is, of course, way before Trump was in politics, but he's right there in front of some very inflammatory talk.
The right to exist as a nation. Now, do you believe that? First of all, Israel, he doesn't have the right to exist as a human being.
See, back in the 90s, they did Twitter IRL. Everything we see on X right now was done on live TV. And I don't think we really see this anymore. Everything is so controlled.
Would you rather talk or fight? You know something? You wouldn't be much of a challenge either way. Either way. You know wouldn't be much of a challenge. I'm making a fool of you. Either way. I'm making a fool of you. Either way. And you're trying to get...
This is like World Wrestling Entertainment. But anyway, this is 1990. Okay, let's continue here. Daniel Moore says, Tim gaslights aerosol spraying chemtrails not real. They are, just not effective. Oh, that's why you're not wearing a mask. You're not wearing a mask because they're not effective. Well, if they're not effective, then nothing to worry about. But chemtrails are fake. And here's the thing. If you believe in them, you fell for a logical fallacy called the loaded question. If you can't identify the loaded question in what are they spraying, then you fail the auto-hoaxer test. You're going to drown in the sea of irrelevance when we push you off the raft. Not that we're going to push anybody off. We're just not going to make room because there isn't room. We don't have room for people who are still carrying propaganda for the mind control system. If you're an MSM plus propaganda mule, if you're a climate or a chemtrail or a cloud seeding alarmist, you're not going to be represented on the raft. And here's why. There are so many more people who fall for loaded questions than are skeptics. And we don't want our group of quarantined skeptics to be drowned out by a lot of fearful, scared, over-propagandized conspiracy theorists. So you can take your fear and keep it in Trutherville. Not that you would leave anyway, because if you retain these fears, if you retain these paranoid delusions that they've fed to you, you're not going to get over the guardrails. You're not going to exit Trutherville. You're not going to take part in the exodus, the great apostasy, which we are initiating here. Mizell said, in the 90s, we didn't have cell phones, TVs everywhere on the internet, keeping us informed 24/7. Everything was more analog at that time. For sure, it was definitely a little more, but it's far more centralized, too. That's why serial killers worked. Like here we have the mass shooter of the week. But back then it was like, oh, this serial killer's terrorizing the country. Stay home, Ted Bundy might get you, whatever. And they would just protract these things. Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. Everything's faster now. Like right now they're cramming 72 hours of news into every 24-hour news cycle, which means that the general public can't parse it all. They're drowning in it by design. Now they have to find somebody, the blue check they trust, and outsource their thoughts, outsource their perceptions and opinions by design. And I'm saying, when you have the right methodology, the right philosophical posture, you can categorically reject entire claims. I'm going to reject all claims based on loaded questions. I'm going to reject all claims based on appeals to motive. I'm going to reject all claims that aren't attended by evidence. And what does that do? That gets rid of 71 of the 72 hours. Just reject all this, and now let's look at what really matters. We are joined by Yagdavis Prime. Thank you for joining. Skyfish says, I grew up seeing Wally George on VHF. I want to say thanks again to everyone who's commenting. We have 175 in the video streams and another 75 to 100. It's hard to keep track while I'm live, but we're definitely closer to the 250. About 250 live listeners. So if you aren't a member, you can go to the YouTube site. You can find the link at ips.monster and join for $1 a month. Or you can join at Patreon for up to $5 a month, depending on what you want to contribute. But what I try to do here is give those who are paid members access to stuff before everyone else, but I do tend to make everything that's private public for the most part, because I'm not trying to gatekeep. I'm not a gatekeeper. But what I will do is I will also upload stuff, like if I'm on John LeBon's Bonversations, I've been on like 4 of those, I will upload the second hour that is paywalled on his site, but I make it available for members of Patreon. So if you want to support that, Patreon or even ips.monster, you get live stream notifications and archives to your inbox. And I'm now spending more time in the mornings in the office doing recordings and addressing comments. And we have recently sent out an open invitation to the Infinite Plane Radio Press Club. So if you want to be involved in our Meatverse activities as we bring this thing above ground, concurrent with the emergence of the IPS Insider tabloid, which will be the only truthful newspaper in the world, now is the time to join. We have a dedicated Discord server and chat room, and I'll be there every morning where I set the stage for the day and I respond to your comments in video and upload it. So we have a lot going on here. So if there was ever a time to join the IPS, hit the link below and do so, because between now and the election, within the next 3 months, the world stage is going to be hit by a planet killer. An asteroid which we've identified as, I labeled it AH 2024, and if you want to be a part of that and what happens after, again, you want to be involved now. Isabel Ann says, full moon conjunct in the moon and the USA chart and 6 other intense alignments. If you ever want to call in and talk, and that's on 8/19, if you ever want to call in and talk about the astrological, I'm definitely interested, because one thing is clear. The religions of the world are based on the astrotheological template. All of the occult traditions, all the mystery schools, all the magical philosophies are all based on the personification of the celestial realm. The sun, the moon, the so-called planets, etc. They all are. And these stories about, with the constellations and these archetypes are condensed then into mundane real-world events and psyops, which are written in the stars. Like I would say, everything we're experiencing is fundamentally coming from above. Like, for example, we talk about Donald Trump and the Christ typology. What's all the Christ stuff around Trump? What's all these archetypes? Well, I think they're telling a bigger story. And the bigger story has its origin in the astrological realm, in astrology, not astronomy, but the narratives. J.P. Morgan said millionaires don't believe or use astrology, but billionaires do, and I agree. Diana South said, how long should it take to get a press pass? I can normally get them out within a couple of days. I place the order right away. If I have them here in the office, it's the same day, but I'm actually out at the moment. But I send them direct. So it just takes a few days and I get tracking numbers. And the purpose of the press pass is you are unlockdownable. You don't have to stay home. There can be fallout. There can be monkeypox. Everybody might be locked down, watching Netflix, getting their programming, and you can walk around and take pictures and just flash your badge. Ryler05 says, what's your opinion on the history hoax, Tim? History is a model. We have historic models, like climate models. And, this is interesting and deeper conversation because what is media but the worldview as told or as seen through Big Brother's viewfinder? It is the perspective of the power elite and the one they want us to have. They're writing history every day with fake news. So I used to really hate the idea that history was unreliable because I spend a lot of time reading history, historic anecdotes. I like history. I like reading everything, but there's a point where, there are some areas where who does this represent and how much of it is, fake news? Okay, let's see here. Godzilla, based on, we talked about this already. So the Paris Olympics, there's a lot of interesting symbolism in it, but it opened with a reference to the nuke and closed with a band called Phoenix. We had a call from Garrow just to remind us that this is Elvis Week, the 47th, which has some very interesting connotations. And we had an interesting conversation about the creepy sculpture at the Vatican. I like the Vatican's hall where it looks like when you're inside of it, it looks like you're looking at a giant snake head. Okay, I am the God blocker, by the way. A virtual reality witness who said I'm gatekeeping the supernatural. The Mandela effect, they have called me the God blocker, that I'm blocking God. I'm stopping people from transcending. You might have made it out of here into a 5D reality, but I had to sow seeds of doubt. I stopped you from meeting God. I'm like Agent Smith, but way worse. Okay, I'm just clicking through my links here. We talked about Grok, which doesn't have a filter, and that makes people mad. But they're also mad at those of us who don't have any what I would consider to be guardrails in our minds. And here's one other point I want to bring up, because I coined the term guardrails. I wrote a book. In fact, here's the manuscript here. I was actually going over it today, called Guardrails: How Free Minds Are Contained by False Narratives and Conspiracy Rabbit Trails. If you haven't seen this book, it's on Amazon. Killer artwork, in fact, by MVP, the hardware vandal. But what I want to point out here with this guardrails concept is that this is how they keep you from arriving at the correct conclusion about the fakery. And what we see here with the AI is this cry to guardrail AI. And so the term guardrails had not really been used to describe media. It's always been to describe what is literally on the freeway, guardrails. But in the last year and a half, the term guardrails has been appropriated to suddenly talk about AI. And I've seen a number of articles recently even where now AI guardrails, the imperative of AI guardrails. This is from 2 days ago. A human factors perspective. X's AI image generator debuts with few guardrails. So the term guardrails wasn't really used in media. Look, it's a perception worry. Marketers say AI safety guardrails need more nuance. That term was not used to describe media and the containment of minds, as far as I know, until this AI thing, outside of where I was making use of it here. And so here's a cover of the book, Guardrails: How Free Minds Are Contained by False Narratives and Conspiracy Rabbit Trails. You've got Nelson Mandela, Nipsey Hussle with Space Needle, and one of these screaming into her cell phone, crisis act. That's the international sign of the crisis actor. The flip phone to the side of your head and you scream. I have this out because I was thinking I should just take Secret Religion of the Elite, Deep Faked, which is another manuscript here. Deep Faked, which is describing how deep fakery pre-existed digital deepfakes. But Deepfaked, Secret Religion of the Elite, World Stage, Deprogramming Guide, and Guardrails. I'm thinking I'm just going to combine these into a single book, a single paperback, and release them all. But let's see, you have been deepfaked. What I put here in the intro is stagecraft. Theater itself is a tool of governance. We are intentionally confused about where the stage ends and reality begins, where the act ends and the real person begins, and about where movies and the news media not only intersect but overlap. Now, I wrote this in 2019, and how many examples do we have of the overlapping of entertainment and news? I mean, since this, we have come up with new terms like concurrent programming, but I'm going to put all these together into a bigger work. I think it's about time, and revise and improve a lot of these concepts and ideas. If you want to pick up the book Guardrails, I have a link here, or you go to ips.monster, or you could just wait until I put it all together into one. Okay, yeah, just email me, Diana South. I'll see if I can find out about those press passes, and I'll resend them if I have to. Eddie F says, if this isn't a simulation, why don't we see real people actually do anything about the corrupt people in government? It's an interesting question. I would say that, oh, and Eddie F says, if a cop sees your press pass, I doubt they'll take you serious. No, you are media. And you know, you can write your press pass with a crayon on a napkin and it's valid. 100%. You don't even need a press pass. You don't. The reason for the press pass is so that you can be a part of a network, and you can actually reference your body of work. Like, look, I'm an IPR reporter. Here's my card. Here's the stories I've done. I'm a regular caller here. Here are the nights that I called. So you actually have some credibility as an observer and a journalist. So no, it absolutely has validity. You are unlockdownable. Eddie F says, I know the only winning move is not to play. What does that mean? It means not living in their box, not reacting to it, not treating it like it's real until you can verify it, which means that you're no longer expending any of your cognitive or emotional energy on lies, but rather on, well, breaking them apart. It's a rigged game. What are you going to do? Organize truthers to fight the system? Truthers are the most brainwashed people on earth. You're going to wake people up like the woke are trying to do? Normieville are even more brainwashed, and worse, they're apathetic. They believe all the lies, as terrible as they are, and they don't even care enough to want to do anything about it. The fact of it is, the human race has already been conquered. Like, there is no winning. The New World Order isn't coming, and you can't fight it. You're not the resistance. Resistance is literally futile. And if you engage in this as though you are the resistance, you're actually the controlled opposition. If you're operating within the MSM Plus framework. Seba says, Eddie F., I think good people are fighting the system, but we'll never know the magnitude. No, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Who said that? Was it Jesus? Plato? Confucius? George Bernard Shaw? Mark Twain? The road to hell is paved with good intentions is an idiom. I'm trying to see if I can find out who said it. But my point here is that every truther fighting against the power in their own way is a dupe. Like Laura Loomer. Oh, she's fighting the deep state. No, she's selling you radiation kits. She's selling you on fear, and she's preparing you to accept as real the nuke psyop that's coming. And all the people who follow her and think she's doing good are, by proxy, doing bad. So no, the world stage makes a liar out of you. And the liars and the believers have lost both their moral and intellectual high ground in this. We have it. So, no, there may be good people, but they're not good once they get involved. April Fool's Day joke gone awry. This was the 1989 Seattle sketch comedy hoax that Jurassic Liars brought up. Let me go ahead and play this for a minute.
Interrupt our regularly scheduled programming for the following special report.
Good evening. Approximately 7 minutes ago at 6:53 p.m., the Space Needle collapsed. Information at this point is incomplete. We do know that injuries are minimal. Fortunately, the needle was nearly empty when the accident occurred. A maintenance man who was working on the lower level has apparently been taken to Harborview's emergency room for minor injuries. Structural damage to the surrounding buildings is extensive. The Space Needle itself is beyond repair.
I was walking along Mercer here, and I heard this sound. It was like thunder, and I looked up, and it was swaying. It was.
Did you see that? She actually slightly laughed. You would think she just saw a school shooting.
Swaying. It was. And it went over. It was like somebody just kicked the bottom out from under it. You wouldn't believe it.
It's too early, of course, to determine exactly what caused this tragedy. Certainly, recent reports of metal fatigue in the huge support girders indicated possible
Anyway, this is exactly what they did on 9/11. Except on 9/11, they continued the charade. They never said April Fools, but that's pretty much what they did. They used the media to lie and to augment reality. Had they not told anybody, and you weren't in Seattle, you would have no way of knowing. It'd be an inside joke. Only the people in Seattle would know that they still have a Space Needle. Like, this is how filtered people were back then. And now, even though we all have access to broadcasting technology, we can all share video and we can kind of compare notes, we're even more brainwashed now because even though we have the tools to see through it, we've been trained. As Frank Herbert said, they're not mad, they're trained to believe, not to know. All right, I'm catching up on your comments. Frank Murr says Crisis Acting 101. Unmediated Mind says no good deed goes unpunished. Clump says I'm here to chew bubblegum and observe, and I'm all out of bubblegum. Yep. Rowdy Roddy Piper. Classic role. You know, I'd like to go ahead and watch all of John Carpenter's movies. I know I want to watch the John Carpenter Elvis movie that Jurassic Liars keeps talking about. I put a link below if you want to check out Jurassic Liars. There's a link to his channel. I think he's live right now doing a pre-show. So really quick, we have 50 people listening on Twitter, 3 in DLive, 115 on YouTube, a few on Twitch, about 30 on Odyssey, and 50 elsewhere. So we're getting close. I think we'll be back to an average of 300 where we were. Actually, we're a little higher, but 300 is a good number to aim for. Violet Pengun says the news today was talking about the Ukraine war, and the reporter said, quote, "It was like a real war zone," and then laughed. Seemed like she slipped up. Right. They can't help themselves. The programming class, they do have duper's delight, mockery. You know, a lot of troopers say they were doing the predictive programming to mock us, or this is some kind of a mockery. It is a mockery in a way. And that may even be structural. It might be an intrinsic part of the PSI-war, where they have to induce a level of cognitive dissonance to cause you to split, to cause you to reject objective reality and to reject your own perception's ability to tell you what's real because you keep on finding discrepancies. In other words, they may be subtly revealing it as a way of deepening the dissonance, the confusion. And confusion is what typifies this, the subjectivity of it all, the lack of objectivity and the fact that grown adults believe in cartoons. I mean, we live in a Disney universe, as I said, and I mean that literally. It's a Disney universe. Dirk had pointed out yesterday that he has an ex-hockey player friend who was allowed in the Illuminati. Please interview him on your show. I caught that comment before I left, so if you want to email me at infiniteplainsociety@gmail.com and get me any contact information, I will definitely reach out, and I'll provide a list of topics or questions and see what we can set up. Okay, Humberto Dark regarding the Wally George says, Wally George has ties to pro wrestling. He was in a 1985 film called Grunt, a wrestling movie, and he was married 10 times. Very Trump-like. Yeah, I agree. Very Trump-like about this guy in the way he looks and his actions. He said, I haven't thought about this guy in years. His show was like a Trump rally with chants of USA, USA. There was name-calling, cheap shots, all very Trump-like, and he had staged WWE-style violence. And look at that hair. Okay, so we have more connections to this Wally George as being predictive programming for Donald Trump. Fascinating. And maybe it could be, too, that Trump was modeled off of him. I don't know. I mean, it could be direct or indirect. I mean, I don't know how influential this guy was. I mean, Trump might have, or the Trump character, though, is obviously embodying certain archetypes. And you can find, as we pointed out, like in Machete, the senator is obviously Trump. Biff Tannen is obviously Trump. Or Hiram Biff Tannen, as I call him. Yesterday I brought up a few things about the fall of the alt-right, and I'm not going to get too much into it tonight because we talked about it yesterday, and I'm waiting for some more developments with regard to America First, Milo Yiannopoulos, and others. But it almost looks to me like right now there's some kind of an overt effort to perhaps bring down a lot of people in the alt-right from within. In fact, Tucker Carlson had mentioned that there was somebody who was involved in the January 6th insurrection that was telling people to run into the Capitol, and he wasn't arrested. And he said it was somebody, and he didn't say who. But people reading between the lines looked into it, and they found a video of Nick Fuentes on January 6th calling for people to go up into the Capitol. And so the consensus there is that Fuentes is a Fed, and like Ray Epstein. And you pretty much have Tucker Carlson calling it out. So again, it looks like a controlled demo of the alt-right. A lot of these figureheads seem to be taking a fall. I look forward to it as it continues. I see there's some pretty high-profile beef going on here, like the Owen Benjamin versus, of all people, Sam Tripoli. That was getting pretty ugly. And they're both on censored TV. And now Nick Fuentes claims that he's at war with censored TV. So there's quite a lot going on. Final thing here. Alex Jones says the mark of the beast technology is rolling out worldwide. Submission equals death. The new ATM machines with the mark of the beast scanner. I think my cards, all of my debit cards, I think there's some kind of planned obsolescence because they keep on failing and all these readers fail. And every single place I go to has a different card reader with different rules. You gotta, like, sometimes you gotta insert the card 3 times. Sometimes you gotta insert, then swipe, then insert. And it's getting increasingly complicated. It was never this bad. And the cards aren't lasting as long. I just replaced my Chime card. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? I think they're trying to annoy the crap out of us so we beg for the injected chip so we can just buy stuff with a wave of the hand because we're tired of waiting in line. So we're gonna beg for those biometric IDs, quantum dot tattoos, etc. Now the position of Jones here is a Luddite moral panic because the right wing is supposed to be afraid of technology and the progressive utopianism, and they want to reach back to barter and traditional values and away from that. So his opinion on this is a sham because when everybody gets the injectable credit card chip or whatever in their palm, he's going to get it too. Now this is random. This incredible science. This is some scientists. They claim that they have done a 3D reconstruction of what Adam, the first human, might have looked like. And this is really weird because it looks exactly like Sylvester Stallone. And I'm like, that's not only is it weird because of that, but he's got his hair slicked back and he's shaved. But anyway, that came across my feed. See if there's anything else. There's one more thing that I thought was important. Oh yeah, the simulation is not the territory. That was the main theme for tonight. The simulation is not the territory. because I do think the simulation theory is sabotage. And there's this phrase I use, the map is not the territory, and it comes from Alfred Korzybski, who said the map is not the territory, the word is not the thing. And one of the things that he had expressed consistently was the model is not the data, or all models are wrong. All models are wrong. Or all models are wrong, but some are useful. But this expression is very necessary, because what I have been positing here for some time is that we have been given a model of the world. And it's not about the shape. The whole shape of the world conversation is a dead end and pointless at this point. It's not about the shape. It's about your worldview. How do you experience it? Because flat or round, you're not experiencing it any differently. Like if you're a ball earther, you're like, oh, I can feel the curve. I can feel it spinning. There's no difference. So it's a matter of interpretation. And that's what we're looking at. We've been given an interpretation. And speaking of flat earth and all this stuff, has anybody concluded that maybe the shooter was a flat earther that shot at Trump? Like, I've been waiting for them to come out with the flat earth terrorist so they can finally shut the whole conversation down. Like, oh yeah, it was a flat earther who shot at Trump. And I would say so because maybe the reason he missed is he didn't account for the rotation of the earth. Isn't that what they say? That they actually, we have to account for the rotation of the earth. So the earth's spin caused the bullet to miss Trump's head. Eddie F says, if it's not a sim, why is everyone playing a role? Here's the reason why I'm against the term simulation, or the idea of the simulation. It goes too far. I can prove to you right now that the worldview is based on a simulation. You can't prove to me that the objective world meatverse is fake. I can prove the news is fake. I can't debunk reality. So if you can prove the news is fake, that's good. It means the map is fake. But if the map's not the territory is real. And the issue here is the simulation theorists are coming out here saying that because the map is fake, reality is fake. And that is the wrong answer. Okay, this has been interesting. Oh wait, one more comment here. Thrustazar said he chose slope to account for the curve. Yeah, I was listening to Tucker Carlson, and he said that he is open to everything, but he doesn't believe in flat Earth because of he's a hunter. He says because of guns. Like, what do you mean? And he said that when something's really far away, you have to account for the curvature of the Earth. He didn't say rotation. Like, the whole argument has been snipers account for the rotation of the Earth. But Tucker said, no, I account for the curvature of the Earth when I shoot. Well, how far away are the deer that you're shooting at that you have to account for the curvature? Thrustazar says shooter was a Joe Rogan listener. The shooter did he have a Discord account? They love to point to where they got their disease X from. Like, oh, this shooter is radicalized on Reddit. This shooter is radicalized on Discord. They throw it out there because they've already seeded this concept and people have already accepted it, that you can go online, get radicalized by some QAnon verses, and then go and fight the deep state by shooting up a place. You can become a terrorist, which is the same argument they used with the Islamic terrorists. Oh, they went to Yemen and visited some radical mosque, and now he's at war with the great Satan. So what they have done is they have created the domestic equivalent of radical Islam, vanilla ISIS or white Al-Qaeda. And interestingly enough, the white nationalist groups, one of the major ones is called the base. Do you know what Al-Qaeda means? The base. Virtual Reality Witness says Tucker is as big a fraud as Alex Jones. I would say yes, in the sense that he's a fake populist. And in his text messages that were revealed post January 6th, he referred to the MAGA base as cousin effing terrorists. That's what he said. So there's Tucker for you. But here's something else about him. I don't think he's in the know. Like, yeah, he's in the programming class, but I don't think he's deprogrammed. I think he's just in a position to be a propaganda dispenser. Jones, I believe, may know more. How much, I don't know, but he's certainly apprised of how fake the shootings are. If he wasn't, I mean, like, this is the thing. It's obvious. Jones is complicit in his own defeat, in the lawfare against him. He's controlled off. But Tucker seems clueless, is what I'm saying. As in, he's in a box, he's insulated, he's still very mainstream. Okay, anything else? If you have any other comments, we still have a few minutes here. I'm just going through the rest of my notes. Seems like today everyone lives in a universe of community-generated fan fiction. We are the only ones with objective perspective on any of this, which is why I'm making the point that as we lead up to the election, we can get our press pass carriers, everyone involved, and we can really make moves to establish this parallel media as a separate body, because everyone's so distracted by the circus. So it automatically makes it easy. You know, I'm not saying we got to break away from Trutherville. Well, Trutherville's going to be focused on the voting booth. So while they're focused on that and believing every psyop and hunting second shooters, we can organize, which is what we're doing right here. Lean Dion says the right-wingers say based. Yeah, even that meme saying, oh, that's based. You say something that's very racist, oh, it's based. Yeah, the base, and Al-Qaeda, the base. And I've made these comparisons before, and it's in one of these manuscripts about the domestic equivalent to radical Islam with MAGA ban. MAGA ban values, radicalized by QAnon instead of the Quran, going after the great Satan instead of the deep state, but they have the same targets. They have the same ideology. Their holy warrior jihadist suicide bombers are incels, and they have the same enemies. And they're also both fake. And this also brings up this connection between 9/11 and 6/11. Osama bin Laden and Timothy McVeigh. And this code of the inverted 9/11, as in one is external aliens, one is domestic. So you flip the 9, 6/11. It's an ambigram. It makes perfect sense. They have encoded this messaging. So everything 9/11, and the terrorism programming has a mirror with the 6/11 stuff, and all of it points to Trump. What time was Trump shot? Oh yeah, that's right, 6/11. What is the Bible verse that truthers are always talking about? The armor of God. It's Ephesians 6:11. The truther movie Sound of Freedom was based on, or had a big scene about Timothy 6:11, which again is Timothy McVeigh's execution date. Now, I didn't want to get into this, but Dave Chappelle used to say that he's not a sellout because he was never pressured by Hollywood into wearing a dress. Well, a number of videos have surfaced where he did play certain roles where he did, in fact, do that. So I don't know what that means. I think that's another right-wing or conspiracy theorist psyop where they have you, here we go, in this constant panic mode. Everybody's a sellout. Everybody's a Satanist. Which, there's the Satanist line, the moral panic, is a huge part of the story. The aliens are demons. But anyway, I find this to be interesting because Dave Chappelle was considered to be a truther and a non-sellout, and he spoke out against this. But what is this?
Brahman's going to do the news, and we got some great guests coming in. Hey, what are you guys laughing at so much? I think I pay them too much. Jerks.
Anyway, terrible programming. Awful, in fact. Things have always been this bad. I mean, if you look at society today, just look at the media everybody consumed over the last 30 or 40 years. And it probably has a great deal of explanatory power to understand where we got, how we got here right now. Ryler says, Q people are mostly Christians, so they think they're going after the Satanists. Yeah, that's the framework. So the moral panic versus the newer concept, the pandemic. The parallel, I mean, it's one of these splits. One side believes in the scientific paradigm, and they have a scientific explanation or a version of sin, which they call the virus. And the other side doesn't believe in that or its cure, but they believe in the archaic version of sin. And they're always focused on moral outrage. And that's one of the things that the Super Bowl ceremonies and the Olympic ceremonies, it's always there to provoke moral outrage. And there are so many people right now who are talking about the Olympics and decoding it for its satanic stuff. And they're looking at it with the wrong framework. Like if you, the only tool you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So if your framework is everything is Satan versus God, you're going to have a completely different set of, you're going to have a different conclusion. Okay, anything else? Gematria 101 says Chappelle movie 846. Yeah, Dave Chappelle's an interesting case study in all of this. I think he happens to be a major psyop operative. He did a comedy skit called 846, and he talked about these numerology connections between him and Kobe Bryant and George Floyd, and how his grandfather, and so he might even be in the club, if you think about it. Because in this 27-minute thing, he talked about how his grandfather did something similar, had a similar historic role to Dave Chappelle, that apparently his grandfather, or was it his great-grandfather, had gone to the White House to speak up against some kind of racial injustice. But yeah, the 846 number is a huge code. 9/11 kicks off at 8:46 a.m. So the kneeling on the neck for 846. And the 846 relates to the time that the sun set. The sun set on 5/25/2020, George Floyd's death date, at 8:46 p.m. in the Twin Cities. So 846, a 9/11 number, another one of these connections, and we've come across a lot of these, and a lot of these have to do with this incoming race war psyop stuff and this Black Christ archetype. So, for example, do you remember Jayland Walker, who was shot by 8 cops, and they fired off like 60 bullets? Well, it turns out he was specifically shot by 8 cops, and he was hit 46 times. The 8 Ohio police officers involved in the shooting of Jayland Walker, who was shot 46 times, so 846. And then we had Amir Locke. I mean, I have so many other examples. I'm not going to get into this now, but 846, I have an entire mind map on it. And it's just one of these things that connects a lot of these various events, and it all pertains to the same essential theme here. The destruction of the West. The whole George Floyd thing, by the way, it was Derek Western chauvinism. That's the name, Chauvin. Like the Proud Boys, they call themselves Western chauvinists. So you had a representative of Western chauvinism, the police, kneeling on the neck of the poor. This is within the Marxist class warfare structure. It's that image is very powerful because it just shows you, well, the I can't breathe applies not just to the poor, but also to the environment, to Gaia. The earth can't breathe. Why? Oh, because of the West and its pollution and climate change. So from climate change to climate justice, it's all interrelated. Okay, let's see if we have anything else here. Eccentric View says, just tuning in, I feel guilty, I'm cheating on on JLB. Is JLB live? Send me a link. And also there's a Jurassic Liars will be catching up on as well. But I guess my final point here tonight is the simulation, not the territory thing. And someone had mentioned, what does it mean to say that the only winning move is not to play? I'm saying that you're being played if they're getting a reaction out of you automatically. Like if you're responding real time and you're triggered by anything, any of the moral panics, any of the fear psyops, then you're in their box. And these things might all be augmentations, hyperstitions. There's no bowl cut shooters. Those are all fake. Wayne Dion says the new Napoleon movie with Joaquin Phoenix would be worth watching. Yeah, Napoleon, the Apollyon, this all connects to Trump and this general theme. And Joaquin Phoenix, of course, the Joker. But Napoleon, there's this interesting conspiracy theory that Napoleon is a fake person, a historic personage, and that his exploits, his military career, and his campaigns was really just a description of the sun, and that he's a personification of the sun. But interestingly, the name Apollyon, Napoleon, is Greek, and then you have the Hebrew Abaddon. So Abaddon, Apollyon, and Apollyon means what? Exterminator. So you got Terminator, Apollyon, Abaddon. And these are all things that relate to Revelation 9:11, which we've talked about extensively, all about the destroyer in the abyss. And by the way, Robert De Niro called Donald Trump a destroyer when he was ranting out there in front of the courthouse. Yeah, Mango says the WHO warned of an Mpox breakout. Yeah, our friend over there at the WHO has announced this just in time for the election. Is anybody here hoping for lockdowns? Because I contend that a lot of people liked it. You know, I had this friend who was at work and somebody had called in sick for, they said they had it. They had C-19. Well, the boss said, come in anyway. So, wow, okay. Imagine, look how times change. 4 years ago, one person has it, everybody dies. Now, no, you still have to come to work. But the boss had it and took a week off. So it's a big grift. That's the thing. And a lot of people don't really believe it, or they don't care, or they're just taking advantage of it for their own selfish reasons. And the system encourages this. I really think it's encouraged. They want you to all be involved in the corruption so you can't speak out against it. But yeah, hopefully we have a few more Illuminati playing cards dropped and played out here in the next few weeks. So go to ips.monster if you want to sign up for the Discord server and get involved. Get a press pass. And if your press pass is in the mail or late, email me and I'll send it out. The unmediated mind says that's not near as interesting as brain-eating amoeba outbreaks. Well, the mind virus concept that we talk about quite a lot, I think that's the next thing that's going to be in play. And I'm like, so we hear about the monkeypox, and here's the connection I was making earlier with the rage virus from 28 Days Later, the director of Civil War. The point I was making is this: they're going to release this virus, but it's not going to be monkeypox. It's going to be the 28 Days Later rage virus, specifically right-wing rage, like the MAGA, the Groypers, the Patriot Front, the domestic extremists. Like it's their time to rage, basically. And what's going to infect them? Disease X. And you had Musk and Trump with their 3-hour talk together, 1 billion views. So you can see here, they set the stage. So now if we do have an outbreak of a rage virus, the public is going to say, yep, it's because we need to censor the internet. Elon Musk has not only polluted low Earth orbit with too much space junk, but he has loaded cyberspace with too much mind junk. All right, well, this has been fascinating. I want to say thanks to the callers, John the Plumber and others, JL, and we will continue this conversation. And if you leave any comments on the main channel, I will address those tomorrow morning. And also, while I'm in the office here tomorrow morning recording that and doing archives, I will be in the Discord server. So again, if you want to be a part of the IPR Press Club, now is the time to get in. Ground floor. It's going to start off small and slow, but every morning more people will be there in the chat. So like today it was just me. Tomorrow there'll be a few other people, and I guarantee you, if we consistently show up in the mornings for the IPR Press Club, we'll have a good number of people in there engaged in chats, and it'll be worth recording, and we'll be acting on a lot of the things that we're talking about. Defrag says, check out the show called Evil. Will do. Evil. Okay, I have a link here. It's a drama show, American Supernatural. And what about it? I do my homework. When I'm not here, I do my homework. I watch a lot of Netflix and Amazon movies just to see, what is being spread out there. And that's why I study this stuff. You need to know, what do they think in Normieville? What do they think in Trutherville? What is Woketown going on about? And this is what I mean by not playing the game. Since I'm not in the game, I'm not operating from the framework of blue pill, red pill, woke pill. I'm outside of it. We're pure white pill, academic, peaceniks, conscientious objectors. But this gives us a perspective. And so we have a new class that is emerging. You have the program class. You have the programmers who are mostly programmed themselves. And now you have us, the deprogrammed. We have exited their room. Defrag says the movies are evil. The show is about a big church trying to stop some demon force that it's controlling the game. Okay. Again, game. If you haven't seen the article, I'll just drop a link here before I go. It's at my Substack. The Game Programmers Explained. And this is an excerpt from Secret Religion of the Elite, if you want to check it out. And as I consolidate these manuscripts into some master script, what I'll do, and it'll be like a 400 pager, probably maybe 300 pages. As I edit the thing and update it, I'll be publishing more chapters and posting them out there. Here are some of the titles. Religious Syncretism Meets Science. And this is about how the space program is not a scientific endeavor. At its core, it's a syncretic adaptation of the ancient mystery cults and their ritual reenactments and the dramatization of the cycles of reproduction and death. The syncretism. The rocket is an obelisk. It's an obelisk that flies to fake space. At least the believers think it goes that high. Unlike the old obelisks made of stone that the Pope prays at 3 times a day at St. Peter's Basilica, but his obelisk doesn't go anywhere. The new ones do. Big fiery displays. Jim Firebrand says the next virus will be from space. You're right, but it's going to come from inner space. It's the mind viruses I'm talking about. The next mind virus, Disease X, will be your inner space. And outer space has always been just basically a way of addressing inner space. And the instant they conquered that and made it to outer space and showed us the world, they defined the parameters of the game, the board, the worldview that we all have to agree on. And what they have created is this. Now, not only is the world this size, this shape, but now it's also precarious. Now it's threatened. Now it's likely to die if we don't give more money and power to the government. Pay Al Gorliani. Buy off the EPA, the protectionist agency, in order to pollute because you are destroying Gaia. Ooh, nice. Violet Penguin says they're making a new 28 days. Again, 28 days. And then the other thing I brought up here was the book that Michael and Truth had brought up was about a virus with a monkey on the cover and written by the father of Boris Johnson. One of the most unbelievable world stage characters I've ever seen. Some suggested that he was actually a deepfake played by this comedian. Who was that comedian that was supposedly playing Boris? If anybody can remember, was it Matt? No. There was some comedian who was playing Boris convincingly, but some people believe he played him literally. We'll have to revisit 2020. It was such a show. Yeah, Al Gorliani, because it's a climate mafia. But what's more, too, is they want you to be agoraphobic. The power elite want you to be agoraphobic so you never leave your house. You're afraid of the open air. You're afraid of the chemtrails, the climate change, the space junk. You have a lot of reasons to be afraid. Like if you believe the science, you believe NASA, why aren't you wearing a space junk helmet? Maybe you don't really believe. But I say reject agoraphobia and instead embrace algoraphobia and just go against anything promoted by the man-bear pig. All right, this has been great. This is Symbia, Auto-Hoaxology. Have a great evening.
Just because you saw it on the screen doesn't make it real. I don't take the red pill, I don't take the blue pill. I just choose to follow my dreams, auto-hoax and chill. I stepped off the world stage and I moved away from all the fake outrage and the hearsay. And I don't give the time of day to those that naysay, because they got a back case of the mind day. I stepped away from the game entirely. I won't be caught up in their lame dichotomy. I stepped away from the cage entirely. I'm free today and my mind's been set by reading out of hoaxology, out of the control system finally. I know where to go if you follow me, cause I've been reading out of hoaxology. Nothing can bother me, out of hoaxology. Won't put the screen before it's blasphemy. I won't become another mind war casualty. I came up out the realm of possibility to take the helm of this reality. Cause I've been chillin', reading out of hoaxology, rejecting all the expectations of the auto-believers, to become a new creation on the raft of receivers. Standing on the sword of truth, I step the backs of deceivers. Demanding burdens for the proof from all the hacks and believers. I stepped away from the game entirely. I won't be caught up in the lame dichotomy. I stepped away from the cage entirely. I'm free today and my mind's been saved by reading auto-hoaxology. Out of the control system finally. I know where to go if you follow me. Cause I've been reading auto-hoaxology. Nothing can bother me. Auto-hoaxology. What would the screen be for? It's blasphemy. I won't become another mind war casualty. I came up out the realm of possibility to take the helm of this reality. Cause I've been chillin' reading auto-hoaxology. Suspending all the judgment, you won't get a reaction. Won't defend it, I won't budge until I get all the facts in. I won't